The following is a presentation of iRacing.com motorsport simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Live tonight from Thompson, Connecticut, LSRTV. Happy to be with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the third race of this championship eSports Association Cars eSport Tour on LSRTV and iRacing Live as we head into tonight's Pedersen Irrigation 250. Want to say hi topside from the booth, myself, Evan Pasoko, James Pike, Chris Murdoch topside with you tonight, and Cisco Scarabooza downstairs pushing the buttons as he is every week. Guys, we come into tonight for Thompson, and first and foremost, James, we get our night kicked off as always with the late model stocks due up for 125 laps from Thompson. We spent a little bit of time at the end of last week's race where Jeremy Adams took home the win in the SLM race later on in the evening, kind of previewing this track a little bit. He's a guy who already's got a win in these late model stocks this season and could be a guy to keep an eye on looking fast tonight as well.
I think anytime that Jeremy Adams steps on track in this series, you have to watch and see what happens. But Thompson, I've always thought, is an interesting racetrack. I've always kind of gotten the feeling that it feels kind of like Darlington, and that you think you have one groove, and then you really get into the corner and start driving this place. And especially as you get into a green flag run, I feel like it tends to open up a little bit. You start seeing the outside line come in just a bit. So be interesting to see what all these drivers do and how they manage to tackle this place tonight.
And you can see as we float high above the Thompson Speedway that this place looks nothing like where we were 2 weeks ago from the bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Chris Thompson is very long in the straights, the corners nice and tight. It is going to bring us a completely different racing, and therefore, because of the track distance, going to be a little bit of a different race length coming into tonight back at 125 laps for tonight's two sets of contest. Right now, drivers just wrapping up the warm-up session again, as always, in this Cars eSport Tour. Qualifying took place one night ago. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but these guys about getting set to rock and roll, and looks like the field size is going to be right on par with about what we've seen so far through now the opening 2 weeks of contest.
Yeah, Evan, it's interesting. Thompson is always a tricky track for me. I had it coming up through the ranks on the iRacing sim, so it's going to be interesting to see how these late models drive it. I've always had experience on the street stocks. I love Thompson. It always provides great tight racing and some very good fast-paced racing, so it should be a good race tonight.
Let's talk about where we sit coming into tonight and take a look at our late model stock tour championship standings through just two of a handful of races still left to go on the season. The year is still very young, but we're slowly going to start to get an idea of who sits where. Talking about Jeremy Adams, well, interesting lead off, the one driver at the top of the championship standings into tonight, James, a driver who has not won yet in these cars, is Matt Kelker. With no trips to victory lane, but he has not finished outside of the top five so far to the season. Same applies to Jeremy Adams, who's second in the overall championship, and they come into tonight just 1 point separating those two. Names like Jody Green, Adam Rigo, Brad Carpenter, your top five, but last week was great for Scott Naslund. He's our biggest mover in the championship, plus 7 positions following round number 2 from the bullring, and our biggest loser from 1 week ago, James Finn, falling 8 spots in the top 15.
Yeah, Scott Naslund had a really, really nice run last week, and all of a sudden, he's right there in that battle for 5th. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers separated by 4 points. So getting a little bit tight up there, but Matt Coker and Jeremy Adams at 69 and 68 points on the season so far. Clearly the class of the field through 2 races.
And obviously, we talk about the differences between these late model stocks and the super late models that'll be coming up in just a little bit of time. Not to give too much away about the super lates, we'll have plenty of time to talk about those as the night goes on. Chris McCucker not only leading these late model stock points, but he's also leading these super late model points. So he's somebody who's definitely going to have a target on his back. He's somebody else who also looks pretty fast coming into tonight. And although it is still very young in the season, as I noted, we've gotten 2 races complete, plenty of ways to go to this point. After tonight, I think still about 9 races left until we get down to really wrapping this thing up in a championship race. But I think we're starting to identify a handful of names of who we're going to have to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and Cucker's always fast on these short tracks, and he's even faster in these late models. So he's doing such a great job. And like you mentioned, still early on in the season, we're only on race number 3, so anybody can step up at this point. And Thompson can really be anybody's race because it just depends on how you drive the track, getting in the corners on the inside lane and not running too wide, because then you can find yourself up in that wall pretty quick. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers handle this track tonight.
The warm-up session has come and gone. Cars are on track for the first of 2 125-lap features in tonight's Pedersen Irrigation 250. That being said, let's go trackside, take a look at tonight's LSRTV starting grid. Best in the warm-up, going to be best in qualifying. Brad Carpenter, but a 19.082 will bring us to the green flag tonight, joined on the front row by the 7 of Kyle Leverald. Back on row number 2, third position for Scott Naslin tonight. James Fitt alongside He'll roll from 4th, and Jody Green get around through our top 5.
Jeremy Adams, who we talked about in pre-race, starts from the 6th position this evening. Christian Pedersen, been fast in both of our early races so far, will start 7th. Adam Rigo begins tonight from the 8th position, and then it's DJ Beverly in 9th, and Kyle Young starting from 10th.
Taylor Kaufman's going to be rounding out 11th, and Robbie Bunden's going to be 12th, 13th. Matt Cucker and Adam Poff is going to round out your field in 14th.
To look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid, let's talk just a little bit more about this Thompson Speedway coming in at 5/8 of a mile in distance at asphalt surface. 4 corners, the long straights and the tight turns, though, what's going to make this place very characteristic, and it's what's going to be, I think, the biggest determining factor in the kind of action that we're going to see tonight. Feel good around this time at 4 lights on the pace car going out this time by 1 lap to green. 125 laps on board. James, what do we expect this race to bring us?
I think you watch corner entry more than anything else because you carry so much speed down the straightaways here. How you get into turns 1 and turn 3 will determine a lot of how your race goes this evening, and making sure you keep the car clean definitely helps as well. We've seen some drivers run into trouble that have had fast cars but haven't been able to close the deal in the late goings and been caught up in issues. So making sure that you keep that nose fresh will also help get you to victory lane tonight.
And if it's your first time tuning in with us, some housekeeping statistics. No tires sitting down pit side, what you got is what you're going to have to race with, and we're going to kick it off right now for the first of 125 laps. Happy that you're with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live. Green flag in the air, and we are off and away from Thompson. First time to turn number 1. Pole sitter on the inside of the racetrack, going to be able to pull the gap into 2. First time down the back. Race leader Brad Carpenter trailed by a side-by-side battle for 2nd. Leverall topside.
Yeah, definitely. Naslin was looking on the bottom of that 7 car, wasn't able to get it quite clear. Top 3 going to be single file as it is. Battle between contact, 61-13, 61 sliding into the grass, going to come back up into 23 with Christian Pedersen, and that's going to be the big jump coming out to 2.
There was a little bit of hope maybe that the 61 would have been able to hang on, but we saw all of that fall apart quick. Talking about corner entry not all that long ago, James, in the 13, just a little bit high for somebody on the inside of the racetrack, and just nicked the left rear quarter panel of the Matt Cool Tools entry. James Finn got sideways. Unfortunately, it ended up in the grass, though. That car snapped back up. He clipped the 23 of Pedersen and ended up sending both of those drivers around. And for lap number 2, a pretty big accident. Handful of cars going to get torn up a little bit in that one.
4 cars with damage by my count. You had Pedersen that you just mentioned, and got the 61 of Finn that got spun around, but Taylor Kaufman also caught the front ends of the 61 car, clipped him on the side, and got the nose of his number 30 car all bent out of shape, as did Robbie Bunden, who ended up in the outside wall trying to avoid that wreck. So almost a third of the field here with damage as a result of that lap 1 incident, or lap 2 rather.
Talking about how guys will not be coming down pit road to get tires if you're torn up, but you do have an excuse to come down to the pit lane and try to get that car serviced. But again, there is no benefit and no obviously reason to come down to the pit lane and get tires. Saw a couple of people, one or two so far, do that to this point in the season. And once the car gets jacked up, you're going to get a subsequent penalty for that one. So that's not really going to be a factor tonight. We'll just keep note of that in case anybody ends up being penalized from doing so. That caution flag, though, is going to send Taylor Kaufman one lap down. He's all the way at the back in 13th position. Only one driver not taking the green flag that was scheduled to be able to. That's Adam Poff, who was the 13th best in a warm-up session. He actually disconnected from the sim, had some sort of a connection problem during qualifying. He is now back in the sim. The car not on track yet, though. We'll keep you posted if the one is able to get that machine underway.
Yeah, and I just want to give a quick note to that 69 of Matt Cucker. He started back in the 13th position there, Evan, and that whole mess of cars happened right in front of him. But as you look at that 69 machine, it's clean and scot-free. He was able to get it woed up going down into turn 1 and gain a lot of positions off of it. He's sitting 7th for this restart, so he's already coming up to the field early in this one.
And that's what you have to expect, for the driver who was third best in warm-up. You're going to be starting way back in the pack. You got to rock and roll. 125 laps is a fair distance here at Thompson, but if we get into green flag conditions, these guys running sub-20-second lap times at fresher tires, not a whole lot of time out there on the racetrack to get the job done. Here we go, though, for another restart. 6 laps going to be complete, and the 7 Leveralt is all over him. Anticipated the jump at 4 and actually beat him to the start-finish line. Side by side for the point. Carpenter once again, though, turn 2 the place to be as he clears for the race lead. Leveralt still P2.
Leveralt almost had a chance to get alongside Carpenter on corner exit there, but he overdrove turn 1, and that cost him all of that really good track position that he got off the restart. You said it, Evan. The number 7 just nailed it, was right alongside Carpenter there, but couldn't make it happen. And now, all of a sudden, Carpenter's managed to extend his lead by about 4 or 5 car lengths back to the 7, and then you've got Jeremy Adams and Scott Naslund right there waiting to pounce if the 7 slips up again.
Single file up inside of the top 4. First battle is for P5. DJ Beverly moved up the racetrack just a little bit. Contact at a turn 2, and he'll take a swipe at the 17. Adam Rigo roughed him up a little bit at a 2. The 14 took a swipe at the 17 on the way by. Rigo's going to get the spot nonetheless, though. Moved the number 17 up to P5, and Beverly falls to 6th in front of a battle behind him with Young and Cucker.
Yeah, and turn 2 seems to be kind of the trouble turn here, Evan, as they keep making contact out of there as the run goes on. They get a little bit bunched up as now there's a battle between Beverly and Cucker. Cucker looking to the inside, going into turn 1, not going to quite be there. He's going to back off, stay right behind the 14, go up the track and try to cut it back down, but the 14 is going to be that defensive all over the back bumper as Cucker looks to the inside, going to be there, going into turn 3 side by side.
And the contact came in turn 2, like we were just talking about. Loosen up the 14 a little bit. And you got to be careful with that. Giving a guy a shot to the back end coming off of turn 2. You could easily end up at a fence. It was a good piece of driving by Beverly to take the shot. However, it's going to work out for Matt Cucker, who started 13th. Biggest mover so far to this point. Now up to 6th. He's already halfway to his goal of trying to get back up to the front of the field, and now Beverly going to have to deal with more company. It's interesting because Beverly was a big winner on that very early caution flag in this race. Started 9th, but jumped up inside of the top 5 after he avoided all the chaos in 1 and 2. Off of this restart, though, he's lost 2 of those positions, falling back to 7th.
I look at that car and I think it might just not be handling all that well. Looks like he might be a little bit tight on a quarter entry because he's dropping back now already in the clutches. Some drivers behind him. You've got Kyle Young there, his teammate Jody Green and the other Patriot Fire car, all sitting right behind that number 14 machine now. So a little bit of damage I see on the front end of that car too. I think we've got a little bit more issues with the 14 than we initially thought.
93 going to beat the next challenger, Kyle Young, half a car length off that time to turn 1. Didn't really make a move to the inside, but is there, and actually with some pretty substantial damage on the 93 after we got a lot of that sheet metal torn up getting through that opening accident. As we paced under that opening caution flag, I noted the only driver who had lost their lead lap status up to that point I believe was the 30 Machida Kaufman, who still is 1 lap down at 11th spot. He has since passed, though, a handful of guys. Adam Poff has gotten that number 1 Machida on track. It took him 7 laps, though, off of the drop of the green flag, so he runs 7 laps down in 12th position. But drivers involved in the accident, Robbie Bundit and Christian Pedersen, have parked those machines on the pit lane. They're not behind the wall. They can still get back out on track if they want, but at this point, double-digit laps down, less than 20 laps into tonight's contest, all but done for those drivers as far as trying to be competitive. A battle now for 2nd spot. Kyle Leveralt, all kinds of sideways that last time coming out of quarter number 4. He's got Jeremy Adams applying the pressure. These guys going to start to do battle as the race leader sets sail. Carpenter good to the tune of 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, I want to talk about cars not handling here tonight, guys. It's going to be the 7 of Kyle Leveralt. He dropped 1.9 seconds back to Brad Carpenter, right into the clutches of the 89 of Jeremy Adams, and just behind them, Scott Naslund. Nasland's been holding off, just waiting in the distance there. He got in the wall out of 4 a few times earlier on, and that's going to allow Matt Cucker now to join this battle. So we're going to have a 4-car battle up here for these positions, and it's only going to get interesting from here.
89 looking at the inside, doesn't commit to the move yet. The longer he sits around and waits, though, as Leveralt continues to fishtail that 7 coming off of the turn, the sooner Nasland and Cucker and company are going to become a part of the battle. Now we go side by side for 2nd. What can the 89 do on the inside of the racetrack at the stripe? Leveralt top side by about a tire length or so in the battle for 2nd spot. They'll stay side by side all the way through 1 and 2.
You've got the battle for 2nd, and then Matt Coker just cleared Scott Naslund for 3rd, so Cucker making his way back up through the field here, right behind his teammate Jeremy Adams, trying to make things happen. It's going to be a 3-car battle for that 2nd spot when they go into 1 and 2.
The 69 just was able to get around Naslund. It was 2 sets of 2, battle for 2nd and 3rd, and a battle for 4th and 5th, but the 69 doing a good job of keeping the 33 behind. Caution flag, they'll get a fly. Contact behind your race leaders, the 61 of James Finn.
Yeah, it looks like he got into turn 2, and like we mentioned, turn 2, the trouble corner, gets right into that 13 of Jody Green, sends him right around, and they just keep going down the back straightaway. Green hooks the 61 of James Finn right around on the back straightaway, and that's what brought out your caution here at Thompson.
If the objective was to move the 13 out of the way, the 61 did a pretty good job of it. If it was incidental, then it was at least appeared to be relatively avoidable, but the contacted 1 and 2 sends both of those guys around. It wasn't really a huge tap, but when you get somebody on the left rear quarter panel like that inside of them, it just loosens them up. They really don't have much of a chance, and then that 2nd hit kind of finished them off.
1 to get to him and 1 to finish him, I think, for James Finn. Though, if it were me, I'd get the feeling he probably would just enjoy a few laps here under green where he's not part of any of the yellows, because he's been involved in both cautions tonight, and I think just wants to be able to find some peace and establish a rhythm on the track more than anything else.
So the order at the point of caution: Carpenter, Leveralt to Adams, Cucker, and Naslund. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Cucker still our biggest mover, now plus 9. He was able to pick himself up inside of the top 10 on that very short opening stint by avoiding all of the chaos and knocked off a few more positions, so you have to wonder how good that 69 is going to be. The caution, though, is great news for Leveralt, sure. Great news for Adam, sure, because those guys had fallen to what was the biggest advantage that Carpenter had all night long at the point of yellow, about 2.6, 2.7 seconds, but not sure, in all honesty, Chris, what the 7 and the 89 can do at the moment. Sure, they were fighting. That attributed to them dropping it back, but Carpenter looked just quicker than them. So this may be the biggest for Cucker in P4, because he's been able to close the gap now. He has been charging through the field. Depending on how quickly he can deal with 3rd and 2nd, might put him in striking distance. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, he's definitely been on rails tonight. Evan, as he moved up to 4th, like you mentioned, starting all the way back in 13th, but with the battle between Leveralt and Adams, it's going to be tough for that 69 machine to get back going, so it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches this restart, especially when he'll be able to see now the leader of Brad Carpenter, who's been already so dominant here tonight. Just a whole lot of what-ifs going into this next restart. Lights on top of the pace cars should be going out this next time around as the guys up at the front of the field get set to rock and roll once more. Pace car across the start finish line. Lights do go out, so it is going to be a restart with 27 laps complete from Thompson. Inside of 100 laps to go. Still plenty of ways to the end of this one, which is why I don't think Carpenter can really at all, James, start to settle in. He's got to get right up on it like he has the last two. 2 for 2 so far on these restarts.
Yeah, clean restarts are the key, and it's just a matter, I think, of not overthinking it. If you're the 31, hit your marks, execute the way you have been, and get away. I think the bigger question is what will Leverall do, because he overdrove the corner the last time around. He'll have to make sure he gets a good entry into one on this restart.
He's got a big advantage. Remember the 7 timed it very well out of 4, just not good that time. Carpenter, car length and change by the time they get to corner number 1. Does Adams challenge for second? Side by side with a 69 to Cucker for third, trying to go up the inside to get to a battle for P2. It did not stick. He'll be fourth by the time they get to corner number 3. Not giving up the spot, but look for a run at a turn 4. There it is, and Cucker race high, P3.
Yeah, and he can now set his eyes on Kyle Leverall as he's pushing down to the inside all the way there. He's going to be there out of turn 2, going down the back straightaway, not quite going to hold off this time by, maybe try to get it off of 4. He's so good at diamonding this corner, guys. He can power off and corner and just get corner exit so perfect, better than the 2 drivers that he's working on right now as he almost gets into the back end of Kyle Leverall. That's going to allow the 89 of Jeremy Adams to get right back on the inside.
Tries to cross him up inside, really not the best place to be though off the turn, and lost all the momentum down the back straightaway. Cucker's going to be able to maintain that running in the 3rd position. Taking a look through the field though, single file top to bottom, a little bit of a fight going on. Green, Beverly, and Finn for 7, 8, 9, a little bit deeper in the pack, but I think all eyes really on the impending battle for second. The 69 car length off, trying to find a way to get up the inside of Leverall to start at P2. Hasn't gone up, but he hasn't fallen from there. He's been there all night long.
Stable, steady, and up to this lap, putting in one of his best performances of the season, if not his best. The problem, though, is that he's got Matt Cooker all over his rear bumper, and it seems like that 69 car has already tried maybe 8 of 9 ways to get around him, if the ways to pass are cat lives, I suppose, but just fighting and fighting and fighting. He's got second. The question is for how long?
And the situation we saw last time in this battle for second is when Cucker was in 4th, as the 7 and the 89 did battle. The longer they fought, the more drivers could come into the conversation. I think context a little bit different. As Cucker takes a look to the inside, locked it up maybe a little bit that time, hard into the corner. Huge run though coming out of turn number 2. Matt Cucker, what a move to get around Kyle Leverall and snatch P2 in the blink of an eye.
And it definitely was a blink of the eye. Me personally, I thought he had messed up that corner all up, and Jeremy Adams was going to be there, but he got the run off of 2, cleared Kyle Leverall. Now he's got to work on getting up to the 31 of Brad Carpenter, who's already got a 1.5 second lead on him. So he's got a lot of tree troughing to do, I guess, that I'm going to say here, because he's got to cut down, and you mentioned it tonight, 125 laps seems like a long distance in the grand scheme of things, but here at Thompson, such a short track, it's really not.
Taking a second look at that one, I'm not too sure that maybe Leverall didn't see Cucker push up the track and go a little bit wide in the corner, really killed his exit. That might have helped the 69 out of the turn. Nonetheless, Cucker, a great recovery if that was a little bit of bobble into the corner to shoot low and really get a lot of speed coming off of the turn. And now the floodgates open on Kyle Leverall. Jeremy Adams and the 89 to the inside. Side by side for what is currently 3rd on track, and the 89's got it that time in 4th.
Just about cleared it and then made it happen off the corner, and now next car in line will be the 33 of Scott Naslin, the come-and-go Crisco Chevrolet, trying to get underneath Leverall, but they make a little bit of contact on corner exit there, so that will give Adam Rigo a chance to get around the outside of Naslin as they work the 3 and 4. Pass is cleared. Rigo now up to 5th.
Maybe a race high spot as well for that 17 machine as he continues to march forward, and the battle for the race lead, meanwhile, very stable. Carpenter to the good by 1.2 seconds over Matt Cucker in second. We'll continue to watch the intervals, watch the lap times amongst those two, and see if the 69 machine, after passing what has now been 11 cars to this point, is able to make up time. Last time, 2/10 to the positive. So Carpenter may not have smooth sailing from this point on through to the end of this race. Leveralt, though, still not done. Running in 4th position, Adam Rigo, who just took over P5. He's not all that far off of the back end in the 17, gets to spot that lap, and now he jumps up inside of the top 4. Leveralt now going to have to deal with Naslin. So the 7 was very good when he was running P2. Did he have the pace of Brad Carpenter? No. We noted that he had fallen to 2.5 seconds off, but once Cucker got around him, the 7 really struggling in side-by-side battles to protect on the outside. Inside opens up once again. Here comes Naslin, and we'll see if the 33 is able to get the job done very easily into 1.
Yeah, and it looks like Leveralt just let Naslin go there going into turns 1 and 2. And I'm just going to hop up here to the 31 of Brad Carpenter, whose now lead is cut down to 9/10. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. I don't think he needs to be quite mirror driving yet, Evan, because he needs to focus on hitting those marks and just trying to drive off the corner. And like corner entry is so important, like James mentioned here earlier, and he's just not entering the corner as hard as Cucker, and it's allowing Cucker to drive off so much better. So we're going to have to see how this 31 treats as his lead is dwindling very, very fast.
You always have to wonder, talking about no additional tires available. The guys, the Hoosier Racing tires that are on these things is all you got for the night. If Cucker pushes a little bit harder still in the opening half of this race, if that could be a negative as the run goes on. As the guys up front try to sort things out interval-wise, we've got a battle deep in the pack for the number 8 position. That time by, actually, for 8th, Kyle Young. Advantage at the start-finish line. He's been on the inside of the 13 of Jody Green for about 4 consecutive laps. The 23 machine of Christian Pedersen, a lap machine, has a great view of this fight as it continues at lap 45.
I think if you're Pedersen, you just wait and see what happens and see if Young can really clear Beverly here. Tried to make it happen and pull the slide job off of turn 2, but couldn't quite get it done that last time. So they'll continue to go side by side. But if you're Pedersen, you just want to make sure that you keep your car clean, having already been in trouble. Meanwhile, a little bit of contact up ahead in front of the field, it looks like.
Yeah, these guys getting physical, and it's a 7 Leveralt who is all out of shape off into the grass. Take the short way around 1 and 2. That time he'll blend back up in traffic, and you see the one of Adam Poff getting around him. That is a lap machine, but Leveralt losing tons of time to the point where I think he's going to fall to the last spot on the lead lap, but he may be, coming pit road this time for the 7. Had big issues. We'll try to get a second look at this one for you. A self-inflicted error coming out of turn 4, got sideways, and the 14 had no way to get out of the way. Beverly hit him, and there's no catch fence up on that front straightaway, so he rode the wall down to turn number 1, and you have to think that that caused some pretty major damage because that machine down pit road immediately.
Yeah, definitely. It's never good to be riding the wall, literally on the wall, so it's never good. Talk about a day going from bad to worse. That 7 of Kyle Leveralt started second, going to be 10th, 1 lap down pit road. Not going well for that driver. We'll see if anything amounts. If a caution were to come out, he would be the first car 1 lap down, but it looks like he's got some major damage to that machine. As we go up here, Matt Cucker now 6/10 off the Brad Carpenter, now 7/10. So Carpenter did something right just that time, gained another 10th on Cucker, but Cucker slowly edging his way there. They're going to be entering turns 3 at the same time this time, so it's going to be interesting to see how Cucker deals with this car and if he can even fight around Carpenter, because it's so hard to get past drivers here at Thompson.
And I think that, Carpenter's going to get him a lap here or there. Cucker's going to get him a lap here or there. The trends do show, though, that the 69 is closing in that battle for the race lead at 7/10 of a second, a gap amongst the two. Fighting still deep in the pack. In fact, this far back in the pack seems to be where most of the fun is for 8th and 9th. The final 2 spots on the lead lap. Jody Green once again in the 13, who recently lost the position to Kyle Young, who took over 7th. Now once again on the outside of the racetrack trying to play defense. This time the challenger on the bottom, the 23 of Pedersen, trying to get on by, and that lap machine is going to be able to get on through, and that now opens up the door for Finn once again to attempt to get to the inside. Watch the Matco Tools entry looking low, that time in 4.
James Finn got a really good run off of turn 4. Wasn't quite so strong in the center of the corner, but corner exit. He's able to drive down off the banking and get a really, really strong run off of the straightaways. I have a feeling that if he can play that right, he might be able to at least get alongside Green when they go down the front straightaway. Not quite there yet, but give it maybe 4 or 5 laps, you might see that position change hands.
Just kind of looking through the field here, trying to find if anybody's at risk for a position change. Rigo Dazzlin a little bit tight. They're about 8 to 7 tenths of a second apart. In a battle for 4th and 5th of the racetrack. Not going to matter. Caution flag is out. It's Jody Green.
The 13 machine also not having a very good day. We're going to try to get a replay up on your screen. It's going to be looking like a 61 again. Were they not involved in a caution earlier in this race? Evan James Finn goes up right into the 13 machine again, collects his left rear, and sends him right around. This time the 61 not involved, just sending that 13 machine right around.
Yeah, we were just looking at that battle where the 61 was able to get to the inside and they get together and caution flag comes out just like that. And again, corner entry. Push it up, into the corner. 61 machine a little bit lower, and by the time they got to the center, he just pushed up, and just clipped him. Almost a fantastic save on behalf of Jody Green. Wasn't able to hang on to it. Caution flag back out. Those intervals we were chatting about are now gone. And the biggest thing to note is now it is going to be, Cucker in that number 69 machine. And then Carpenter 1-2. They will be right alongside each other come the restart.
So now what does Matt Coker get to do once he's got that lead and he's got that track position? And I guess by the same token, how does Brad Carpenter's car handle in traffic? We saw with Leveralt earlier, once he got mired back into the field, that car really tightened up and it became a handful for him. I wonder if the same thing happens to Carpenter or if he's got a little bit better setup and is going to be able to hang on to one of those spots in the top 5, because Jeremy Adams and Scott Naslin have fast pieces too. If Carpenter slips up, one of those two I suspect will be right there.
And the biggest thing on the restart here, I think, if it's Carpenter, he's got to do something with Cucker. The 31 messed up that time down to 1 and 2, cost him the race lead. And now that Cucker's going to be the control car, it's going to be very difficult for Carpenter on the outside of the racetrack to be able to challenge with him. But I think that if Cucker gets going, based on what we've seen in the opening now 60 laps of this race, is that the 69 has the best car on the racetrack. So if you're not in front of him and you can't be holding him up or slowing him down at all, I think that puts you at a severe disadvantage. So let's not understate how impressive this run has been for Conquer. Again, we're not even halfway home in our first 125 lap main event on the night, and he started all the way at what ended up being the back of the grid, 13th position out of 13 cars who took the initial green flag. He's made his way to the race lead in 60 laps.
Yeah, and you're talking about how the 69 has a leg up on everybody else being the fastest car on the track. Well, I want to talk about an equalizer, if I could get it out. Contact, that bumper will become the equalizer. We've seen it all night here tonight, guys, and I'm not going to say Brad Carpenter is going to be one to not use it. He'll probably be one of the first to use it here tonight.
We'll take this opportunity, step aside, and we'll come right back to Thompson. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Cars eSport Tour on iRacing Live. Welcome back live to Thompson. Green flag just now back in the air in our Pedersen Irrigation 250. Late model stocks on track right now. And Matt Cocker control car on the restart has been able to get off and away. He leads to the tune of 7/10 of a second over Brad Carpenter in the 31. Just lost P2. How about Jeremy Adams? Race high P2 for the Global Com machine with that move for second.
All of a sudden, we've got the Globalcom cars 1 and 2, 69 and 89 outpacing the field. And I said it while we were under yellow. How would Brad Carpenter's car handle in traffic? Maybe not so well, might be the answer to that question. Already lost a spot, and now here comes Scott Naslin looking behind the 31 for that 3rd position.
Yeah, battle for third up here now, shaping up here now as we got now Jody Green joining the conversation here, as Evan said earlier. Slowly catching up there. He's had a few troubles here in this race with some contact early on, but I feel like he can get that 13 machine, I should say, back in groove and maybe up here battling for third. What a night by him to keep rebounding and get up there into the top 5 as the 33 of Scott Naslin's closing in fast on Brad Carpenter. Brad Carpenter seemed to have lost a lot of speed. Maybe the tires coming into factor here late, Evan.
Well, the big advantage that the 31 has had is he's been up front. And again, best car in the warm-up session, qualified on pole yesterday. The 31 is a fast car. Let's not discredit that. But the advantage you have from starting up front on a restart is you get out into the clean air. That's not as big as a factor here as it is in some of the bigger tracks. But the big thing is when you're out in the race leading, you got guys fighting for second behind you. They're not really catching up on you. And there's going to be more battles for second, third, fourth, and fifth than there are battles for the race lead. And it has allowed him at points tonight to grow leads up to 2.5 seconds and change over the guys second on back. But I think that mistake that he made, maybe heated up the tires, flat spotted him just a little bit, had that big slot in two. That's how Cucker got the race lead before one of the most recent caution flags, and then restarting on the outside for this most recent restart. I think those couple of scenarios, they're all stemming back to a self-inflicted error is what's really hurt the 31.
That plus, I think, just the pure speed of the Global Com cars. They've been really, really quick, especially here on these long green flag runs. And if you give them enough time, they usually find ways to get to the front. That being said, though, Carpenter's been able to kind of stabilize his position in third, ahead of Naslund by 0.4 of a second now. And that gap really hasn't changed all that much. So definitely has one of the faster cars in the field. I just don't think it's the fastest car in the field at this moment.
And if you're going to try to figure something out, you're starting to run out of time because we are past the halfway point in tonight's late model stock event from the Thompson Speedway.
Contact!
And with that being said, as we take a look back with some contact, it's the 14 of Beverly in the fence.
Yeah, the 14 got a little bit of contact there, Evan. Between the 17 of Rigo, he was looking in corner entry. One of the biggest things we've talked about here tonight, pushing up the track into the 14 of Beverly, sending him around and right hard into the inside wall.
Caution flag is going to come out as Beverly pulled that machine onto the racetrack and it came to a stop. So to give us an opportunity to get a second look at that one, I'm not sure I can place 100% of that though on the 17 because James, the 14 doing what he should have been doing, that's following his teammate in that 13 to Jody Green, basically right in his tire tracks coming off of the corner. The problem is the 13 is single file, the 14's 2x2, and conventional courtesy would say that if somebody's on your inside, you would move up the track a little bit and kind of pinched him just a little bit. Didn't necessarily give him all kinds of space, and the 17 could have definitely gone lower, but I think just a racing accident for those guys that have turned four.
I think you stole the words right out of my mouth. Racing accident is exactly where I'd put it because you're right. Beverly was definitely lower than normal on corner exit for someone driving in that outside lane here at Thompson Speedway. So sometimes that happens. You're just going to have to find a way to regroup and fix it. The problem, though, for Beverly is that he took a shot to the inside wall, and that car definitely is hurting. As I look here at the replay, a lot of smoke coming out of the front end, so it might be a while before that 14 car gets repaired and back to raceable condition.
So now that we are past the halfway point, but not wrecking, let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Debate Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series from the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and many more. Pacing at lap 76, it is Matt Cucker, your race leader so far to this point on the season. Still looking for a win in these late model stocks, but leads the championship after the opening 2 weeks. Jeremy Adams starting to pick up the pace as this race goes on. He runs in a race IP2 for him. Our pole sitter behind him, Brad Carpenter, has fallen to third. Scott Naslund just behind in the number 4 spot. Jody Green, despite all the tire marks on the left-hand side, somewhat uneventful of an evening, started P5 and runs P5.
But a hard charging run for Kyle Young. He's been in the thick of a lot of battles tonight, but currently sits in the 6th position. Taylor Kaufman now currently runs in 7th, and it's Adam Rigo holding down the 8th spot. Adam Boff has recovered from those computer issues that plagued him early and forced him to disconnect nicely, sits 9th, and DJ Beverly, who was caught up in that most recent caution, currently scored in 10th.
And we get to drivers that are now retired and off the track. Guys, it's going to be the 61 of James Finn, sent in 11th. Christian Pedersen, 12th. Kyle Leverall, it's going to be 13th. And Robbie Bunden's going to be 14th.
That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. For a limited time, you can still go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. You can get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership right now for less than half off. Or if you just want to give iRacing a shot, you can get a 3-month membership for less than $5. No excuse not to try it. It's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. Pace car down and away. 78 laps going to be complete for the 69 of Matt Cocker. He'll bring the field at quarter number 4 to the green flag. We're back off and away, and another good jump from the insider 01.
Almost wonder if the Globalcom cars got together and said, one of you will go and one of you will stick right there in line and get to second really quickly. They're off and away, and the battle is for third here. Carpenter and Scott Naslin are running door to door and wheel to wheel and not giving each other an inch as they come off turn 4. But it looks like Naslin will clear, so you can move the 33 car to the 3rd position.
A little bit further back, the 13 really struggling. Jody Green, 5th on the restart, going to be 7th this next time by both Young and Rigo. Able to make a move on the outside of the racetrack as the Patriot Fire Machine slips a little bit off of the restart. Lead lap cars down to 8 now, this time by 45 laps to go from Thompson at our late model stock feature on the night, the first of 2 in tonight's Pedersen Irrigation 250. Adams is keeping Cucker honest for the race lead, a 4-car length gap between the two.
Yeah, and that's really what you got to do here at Thompson, Evan. You got to keep everybody honest, because it's really, really hard to pass here, like I've mentioned before, and you really got to keep up with them, because if they make a mistake, then that's your shot to pass, and that's definitely what the 89 of Jeremy Adams is doing. Back a little bit, battle for 4th, the 93 of Kyle Young, still on the back bumper of the 31 of Brad Carpenter. Carpenter's still kind of struggling back here in the dirty air, like you mentioned, and struggling back here in the pack. I think we've seen him burn up his tires just a little bit too much. He was able to cool them off during the cautions, but once you get so long in the run and you push so hard, it's basically no turning back at that point.
And I think that we've really reached a point in this race now, past the halfway point, starting to close it on the home stretch, where I think everybody is kind of balanced out where they're going to be. There's still fights on the racetrack, absolutely. Young and Rigo nice and tight for the 5th and 6th spot. This battle for the race lead is not done, but I don't think anybody is due up to pick up 12 positions or so like Cocker did earlier. I think that we've kind of had everybody balance themselves through, and they're running where they should be running with the circumstances considered. I will be honest, though, James, I wasn't too convinced that Adams was going to be able to put this kind of a fight with Cocker for the race lead, because when Cocker was coming through the field and Adams started in P6, he made relatively quick work of the 89 off of a restart. But since Cocker got to the top spot and Adams has been able to get to P2, he's right there on him. Not the best time through 1 and 2 the last time by. It'll cost him some time. That gap was 2/10. It'll go up just a bit, but he is very much in the conversation.
I guess then there are 2 things to talk about here. Is that one, is that the only driver that might shake up the standings and might be able to drive his way through the field if he gets another yellow to get back on the lead lap would be the one of Adam Poff, who currently sits in the 9th position. He may be able to get a few spots, but would need another caution in order to get his lap back to do that. And then, but I think your point about Adams is somewhat valid, and then I stop and I think about all the times this year where we've seen Adams run down Cocker in the last quarter of these late model stock races, and that's how he's been able to go grab wins and go grab good finishes. So I'm not totally surprised to see Adams sticking there with Cocker, but that gap has increased over the last 5 laps, so I wonder if the 69 cars decided that it's go time and that it's time to go.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeremy Adams, race winner in the late model stocks from New Smyrna and a race winner in the super late models from the Bull Ring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He is the only driver to win in both disciplines. Caution flag is out at lap number 90. Problems with the 30 of Kaufman here, and he lost an engine.
Yeah, definitely, Evan, and it looks to be just like you said, blown engine. He was trying to keep it down low on the front straightaway. You can definitely see down on power, and he just parks it in the grass, and that's definitely going to bring out the caution here. So not too much to talk about, just unfortunate circumstances for Taylor Kaufman.
Yeah, he lost the engine right in the center of 3 and 4, so it would have been too late for him to try to get down to the pit lane, and I think he did a relatively good job as far as pulling that car off into the grass over the caution flag. Still triggered by the sim, and we slow things down, and that gives one more opportunity at least for maybe Adams to try to do something. Again, he was 0.2 of a second off for 5, 6, 7 laps off for the restart, and then he really blew the entry to 3 when I was talking about him, and that gap went from those 0.2 that I had noted back to 4. So I think that if Adams is going to do something with Cucker, he's going to have to be perfect on these restarts and can't afford mistakes like that. He's going to have to apply the pressure and force Cucker into a mistake, which is no easy task either. Keep it in mind that Cucker into tonight, as we've said a couple of times, we said it at the top of the broadcast, but if you're just now tuned in with us, again, we still got this race, another 125 lapper coming up after this, so still plenty to go, but what we were talking about early was that Cucker, no wins in these late model stocks to this point on the season. Does have an SLM win from New Smyrna earlier, but he is the championship leader.
How you manage pressure here in these final 30-plus laps, I think, will be very key in determining who gets the victory, because you talk about Adams needing to get a good restart, but we can't forget that the pressure is just as much on Cucker as it is on Adams to get away well. And that might seem like an obvious point, but I think it's one that you have to note here, because sometimes people can just slip up and let it get in their head and make silly mistakes like that. We've seen some drivers lose races like that. I think Christian Pedersen most notably in that first race the year at New Smyrna. It was beating yourself up that cost him the win in the super late model race there. We've seen it a few other times throughout the course of the season already, so Cucker just has to make sure that he doesn't fall victim to that. Just has to make sure that he has to execute here down the stretch.
8 drivers going to be on the lead lap for the restart. It looks like Paul is going to come back off for the pit lane and group back up, although he may have just lost his lead lap status because the pace car appears to have cycled out of turn number 2, so that number may end up at 7 for the subsequent restart. Going to get 30 laps to fight with it. Cucker, Adams, you have to think it's a battle between those two. Never forget, though, that in short track racing, contact amongst 2 drivers is not a rare thing. So don't count out the likes of Naslund, Carpenter, and Young 3, 4, 5 to be in the conversation if the guys up front get a little bit dicey.
Yeah, definitely. I'm never going to count out that 33 of Scott Naslund. Started 3rd and is sitting 3rd once again. He hasn't really fallen out of the top 5 tonight here, Evan. And like you mentioned, contact can be such a good thing. We can see contact from 3rd going down into 1 because laps are winding down, real quick here. And it's only a matter of time before we start seeing those bumpers come into play.
Double up we are, 95 complete, 30 to go this time. We will see if it's going to be the 69, the 89, or friends that end up in victory lane come at the end of this one. Is this going to be, though, for the final time tonight? American Ethanol Green flag flies. We go back underway once more. Another good jump for the inside of the front row for Cucker. Adams going to be able to get P2. Battle for 3rd behind them. Carpenter on the outside. He gets it.
Carpenter got a better restart than Naslund there, was able to keep it hung up on the outside and keep the engine wound up in 1 and 2 and cleared Naslund for that 3rd spot. And now Naslund's stuck on the bottom, can't quite get the lane he wants, and he's going to have to fight off Kyle Young in 1 and 2 and make sure he can hang on to the 4th position.
Behind them, battles going on amongst the 93 of Young, the 13 or rather the 17 of Rigo, and the 13 of Jody Green, but all of that is substantially behind the battle for the race lead. Adams still there, and eventually you're going to have to try to do something. Again, I noted hanging back a car length and a half, trying to put some pressure on the 6-Honda machine, maybe force Cucker into an error, but if that does not work, you're going to have to find something a little bit extra out of that 89 to get to him, at least to be able to get to the bumper you may not have the speed to get to his inside, but all you need to do is be able to get to the bumper to challenge at a short track. And if we go another 10, 15 laps and he starts to fall, I think anywhere further back than those 3-4 tenths of a second, then I think he's really in jeopardy.
Yeah, definitely. And one car I want to make a note of, Brad Carpenter, he fell back towards the back of top 5 for a little bit there, Evan, and is now finding himself back in 3rd, so he could be pushing here late in the race and maybe just saving his stuff sitting back, coming to 25 laps to go this time by.
100 laps complete so far tonight from Thompson, Connecticut. Battle for P1 still a thing, and not sure it is a battle. If these guys were running this far apart, though, for 3rd and 4th, like Carpenter and Naslund are, I'm not sure we would necessarily call it a battle for position. They are in line, and they are in a position to fight with each other, but they haven't engaged with each other quite yet. And again, I think that maybe Adams could be waiting. Who knows? We could be sitting here saying the 89 doesn't have enough. He's got to find something extra. Maybe he's just waiting for the right moment to make the move. We have seen times, even in this series, in the only 2 weeks of action we've seen so far to this point, but definitely in a lot of the short track action that we've seen in the past here on LSRTV, James, where you give the guy the bump, but you bump him with 5 laps to go, and that's 4 laps too many. And that guy gets back to you. So you have to calculate, if you're able to, when you want to make a move if you're going to do it.
Boy, doesn't this kind of feel like it sets up like the first race of the season at New Smyrna, at least here at the front of the field with the late model stocks. Coker had one of the dominant cars for 3/4 of that race, and then Jeremy Adams turned it on in the final 30 laps of that race and was able to get the victory. I wonder if he's holding something back. I don't think we've seen everything from the 89 car, and we know that with those two drivers being teammates, their setups are going to be similar, and so it will more often than not, I think, between those two come down to which driver just executes and commits and makes things happen better. The question for all of us is, what does Adams have left? I just don't think we really know at this point.
20 laps to go. This time by got into the fence that time, but at quarter number 4, talking about self-inflicted errors. You can't make that kind of a mistake and give Coker an extra car length and change, because now, he's still there, but 3 car lengths is very different than 2 car lengths. And if you're going to bank on Coker to make the same mistake the 69 has showed us, especially considering the fact that he's had to pass 12 drivers, go back to front and have to deal with all that traffic dodgy directs, that he has been clean to this point. So I'm not sure you're going to get a mistake out of the 69 machine. That car looks pretty clean up front. But Adams, very good job of recovering. A little bit of a lower line that time in 3 and 4. Reels him right back in.
Yeah, and I think that's just a bit of a hint of what Jeremy Adams has left. We saw him drop a lot as he gets a little bit squarely out of turn 2, going to lose a little bit more time. I was going to say he has quite enough to be able to fall back into and hit the wall and make all that ground back up, but he's got to do it again this time. Evan, going off into turn 1, he's going to be 3 car lengths back once again. He's got to drive the wheels off that car if he wants any shot at trying to make a move, because passing very difficult here at Thompson.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it off of restarts specifically, where, somebody makes a move on somebody and then 3-4 other drivers file on through. A lot of those freight train-esque situations. But on the long runs of these green flag stretches, definitely the passing has began to slow down and start to kind of diminish as the race goes on. Again, kind of back to the point that I noted, I think these guys have kind of found where their cars deserve/belong to be based on just how quick they are. We restarted with 30 to go. This time 15 to go halfway through this last run if we stay green up front, and the gap between the top 2 unchanged.
Unchanged now, but I've noticed as Adams has made some mistakes here over the past few laps, he's managed to close that gap ever so slightly on the 69 car. So don't know if he's been pushing a little bit harder to make that happen, or if Coker might be slipping up with some very hairline mistakes. They're not huge by any stretch of the imagination compared to what we've seen in races past here with the Cars eSport Tour, but certainly a chance if you get behind Coker enough, if you're Adams, that you can intimidate him and force him into a mistake, and then your opportunity to make something happen is right there for you.
Battle going to be on for 3rd position. Carpenter in the 31, Naslund in the 33. They are 2 seconds off of this battle for the race lead, so we do need to note that. But again, If the guys up front get tangled up, third place would be in a position to come in and steal this thing. Naslund got to the inside. Carpenter was able to hold him off and now pulls about a car length and change. Lap traffic on the inside. The fortunate EJ Beverly falling a 29th lap down as he continues to ring the inside of the racetrack in what is the number 12 spot on track. Next time by 10 laps to go. The gap between the top two back to 0.3 of a second. Again, Adams is there, no doubt, but I'm still waiting to see that little bit extra that I think he needs.
And also, when does the bumper come into play there? Evan, you can dive it in pretty hard here at Thompson just to make some contact and maybe get Cucker a little bit loose, but if he keeps losing the car links like he is doing, like James said, I've noticed it too, he's able to pull Cucker back in pretty quick here during this late run, and he's able to do it right now. Going to be right on the back bumper of the 69 coming off a 2, but he's going to slip up just a little bit coming off a 4, lose some tenths. So like you said, gaining a little bit there, losing a little bit there, and it's definitely going to be a waiting game here for this finish.
I'm just taking a look back at the lap times for Cucker, and he is so very consistent, James. The lap times are obviously going to fall off, but you know, he had a handful of 19.6s, and then he had a handful of 19.7s, and then a handful of 19.8s, and now into the 19.9s, but he hasn't had a lap, you know, a tenth or so quicker or slower than the lap before. So the 69, I think, is just dead perfect as far as being consistent. So when the 89 falls back, the 89 closes up, it's that 89 machine gaining some and losing some. So I think Adams needs to find that balance because Cucker is so smooth.
Really, really smooth, and he got some help a lap ago on the exit of turn 2. They had to get around the number 1 car of Adam Popp on the inside, and that looked like it cost Jeremy Adams 1 or 2 tenths on Cucker. So I think if you're Cucker, all you have to do is just make sure you hit your marks and look forward. Don't worry about the rear view mirror because they can't get to you if you don't make any mistakes yourself. If you do everything you can and hold on to your position, Cucker should be good for a win.
5 laps to go this time by as the iRacing to point of no return. There is no green-white checker, no overtime. This race is going to end at 125 laps and no more, no less. So if we were to get a caution flag from this point on, this race would end at the moment of caution, and the running order at that moment would be your finishing order for this one. So Cucker, next flag for him, going to end this, and I think that may have been the final nail in the coffin now. Half a second plus over Adams.
Yeah, definitely. And that Kyle Leveralt machine in that 7 had to play into it. That lap traffic, so crucial to get around smooth here at Thompson, and the 89 just got held up going down the straightaway and couldn't get around the 7 machine. So as long as there's no self-inflicted errors, like you like to say, Matt Cucker should pick up the W here.
Just trying to close this thing out. Inside of 3 laps to go. A comfortable lead. The 69 could even take it a little bit easy. Work that gap. Make sure he doesn't make any mistakes.
Makes it really easy for him to hang on to it, but credit to Matt Cucker. This is the race where he's finally been able to string it together all throughout an LMSC feature here in the Cars eSport Tour, and he's just under 2 laps away from getting the victory.
This time by for the 69 machine, the white flag going to fly one more time around. As he comes this time at a 3 and 4 for the penultimate time. 1 lap to go for Matt Cucker. 0.6 of a second over Jerry Adams, 2.6 over Brad Carpenter, 2.9 over Scott Naslund, and 3.2 over Kyle Young inside of the top 5. Cucker going to get his first late model stock win on the season, and it'll boost his championship lead. Checkered flag, Matt Cucker, your winner in a Pedersen Irrigation 250 in the late model stocks.
And what a valiant effort it was by Jeremy Adams to try to reel him back in towards the end of that race. But Matt Cucker, definitely the fastest car on the track tonight. Started back 13th, not even taking a time in qualifying there, Evan, to coming to win the race and taking that checkered flag. What a dominant run by that 69 machine.
I think that, you know, Cucker's been so good this season. A well-deserved first win. He joins Jerry Adams now as the only 2 drivers to have a win in both late model stock and super late model categories, and he'll burn it down on the front straightaway. It is very impressive, though, that he started all the way at the back, but all the way to the front again, qualifying yesterday. 69 machine all the way at the back for this one because of the results of that, but we knew he had a fast car, James. It's not like him passing guys was a big surprise. He was 3rd best in practice. He's the championship leader, has not finished outside of the top 5. That streak going to keep alive tonight in this race, but I think that we kind of lose a little bit of how impressive that was because it felt like he was up front all night because he went back to front in only, 56, 57 laps or so?
It was really, really quick. He didn't really need that much time to get up there, but this is a scary proposition for the rest of the field now. You look at this race, he hasn't finished outside of the top 5. Now he's got a wing to go for it, and he's got the points lead. If you're not the 69 car, you need to start figuring out what you need to do to change your setups, what kind of practice time you need to lay down, and what kind of laps you need to go turn on some of these tracks coming up on the schedule in order to catch the 69, because he is clearly the class of the LMSC field at this point.
And that's half of tonight's Pedersen Irrigation 250. Let's take a look at your LSRTV full race results for tonight's late model stock feature. Matt Cucker is your winner. First one on the season. Jerry Adams going to come home second position to him. That's the way that they run. By the way, 1-2 at a championship. And Brad Carpenter going to come home third. We'll go trackside talk with your top 3 finishers in just a moment. Scott Naslin, though, P4 tonight with Kyle Young inside of the top 5.
6th place belonged to the number 17 of Adam Rigo. Jody Green managed to come home with 7th. Adam Pa finished 2 laps down in 8th. He's the first car more than 1 lap down in this race. Then Christian Pedersen ran into trouble early and was able to stay out there for the rest of the race. Finished 9th. Kyle Leveralt ran into trouble early as well, was only able to come home with 10th when it was all said and done.
Taylor Coughlin's going to be 11th, 12th, DJ Beverly, 13th, James Finn, and rounding out your field in 14th, Robbie Bunden.
Look top to bottom at our LSRTV full race results. Let's talk to your winner, Matt Cucker. Get the job done tonight. Your late model stock winner from the Thompson Speedway. We're trackside now with the driver of the number 69. Matt, congratulations. I know that you guys have had things on track all season long to this point. Every finish has been a top 5. Came into tonight leading the championship, but I know that you guys want to get the wins. You got one in the super lates, and I know that you want to win in this. And the ultimate objective at the end of the line is to win in both cars and take championships in both cars. But you get the late model stocks out of the way with an impressive win tonight from the back to the front. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday for qualifying, I botched it pretty good, and I knew I wasn't going to be in the invert because I wasn't within a half a second. So I knew I'd be starting in the back, and my plan, it worked out pretty well. I was just going to stay in the back and ride, and there was that big wreck on lap 5 or 6 or something like that, and I saw that coming. I just stopped and let it happen so I can get through, and from there on out, it was just clean sailing. And then I knew once I could get past Jeremy on that restart there, it should have been a clean race to the end. Brad said he was getting tight early on, so it was like, all right, I'm doing fine. He's going to get tight, and he actually got loose on me in front of me, and I was a little bit worried. But he said, I'm going to let you go. So then I went, and then once Jeremy got behind me, he was keeping me on my toes, and I really thought he was going to be able to get me, but this track is really hard to pass at. There's pretty much one lane unless you use the bumper, and with these cars, if you use the bumper a little bit too much, you can spin them. So I was just hoping he would stay behind me and not use me all up, and it worked out tonight.
Yeah, we saw a couple of cases of that as the night went on. You were able to get around him, and then he definitely kept it on you there late in this one. Obviously, in this series, nobody coming down to get tires, so you talk about guys talking about how those cars were changing over the course of the 125 laps tonight. For you starting that far back, I know that getting around the big junk helped early, but there were a couple of key restarts where you were pretty pushing that 69 machine hard to get those positions. How much on your mind was kind of weighing trying to take it easy, save the car, or was the objective getting up front and then you would rather play defense with a car that's a little bit more worn out than maybe trying to play catch up all the way to the end? What was kind of the strategy game there and making your way up front, because you got to P1 before the halfway point?
I knew if I would get out front, because as the race goes on, the track tightens up, and I knew our setup would tighten up in the middle, and that's what happened. But I knew if I'd be able to get out front, because it's so hard to pass, I wouldn't be able to get passed back, and that was the game plan, to try to get out front first, or get out front earlier, but it was a little bit right before halfway, and I got there, and then Jeremy finally got there, but it's just way too hard to pass. And I mean, my right front, I'd go into the corner, and it didn't want to grip for a couple seconds, then it would turn on me, thank God, but he was coming, he saved his right front just enough.
A solid win for you guys. You move on now into the super late. Sakar, also you're very comfortable with. You join Jeremy Adams now. You guys are the only two drivers still in this very young parts of the season to have a win, both the late model stocks and the super late models. Going to be right back at it right here once again. 125 laps based on what you experienced in this one. What do you think's to come for you guys?
I mean, I'm starting at the back again. I botched this in the super late model qualifying too pretty bad. I went down in, I thought we had 2 laps, and then right before the start finish line, I stopped, looked down, and I'm like, oh, we only get 1 lap, so then I just crossed the line.
We know that the objective for you guys is going to be the same. You did it once. Hopefully, you guys will be able to do that one again, Matt. So we'll let you take off. I know that one going to be gridded up here in just a moment. Before we do, the sponsors, the shout-outs. Who makes it happen?
I got to thank iAnalyze.com, Globalcom, Rowdy's Wraps and Designs, and Kamikaze Webworks.
Race winner tonight in the late model stocks, Matt Cucker. Matt, thanks for sticking around and chatting with us. Best of luck, and who knows, maybe we'll chat soon.
I hope so.
So that's the driver of the 69. A lot of the conversation with Cucker revolved around Jeremy Adams, who gave him a run for the money, just a little bit shy of challenging all the way through for the race win, but a solid P2 tonight for the 89 of Adams. He is trackside with James.
And we move our attention to the other Globalcom car in this field, the 89 of Jeremy Adams. And Jeremy, another strong run for you tonight here at Thompson Speedway. We know that you were there, and in the last stint of this race, the last quarter or so, you were trying to run down the 69 car. Take the fans through your mental process and what you're kind of thinking about and trying to do as you followed that 69 car in that last stint of the race, especially since you guys are so close as teammates and you share so much data on a weekly basis preparing for these races.
Honestly, I was just trying to focus and get to his back bumper and hoping he would make a mistake. It's hard to pass a car that's real even here. And I got messed up a little bit by a lap car, but I don't know, maybe I could have bumped him a little bit, but I was just trying to get to him to where maybe I could have done something, or maybe he messed up big enough where I could get around him.
Regardless, though, still a solid finish in B2. You both extend your gap over everyone else in the point standings here in the late model stock championship. And I have to think that that's going to help you a little bit. With the more races you get in, the more you guys keep on going up here in the top 3. Makes it a little bit easier, I think, to run for a title when you can try and make it a battle between your teammate, right?
If anything, it probably makes it a little bit harder in my eyes. I don't know, racing a teammate for a championship's a little bit more frustrating because you don't really want to race him as hard as maybe you would somebody else for a championship.
You have to be careful and watch yourself, too. These are all variables that we all have to consider. But strong run for you. I know we'll go ahead and let you get ready for the next race here in just a few moments. But before we do, shout-outs, sponsors, people that you need to thank. Who makes it happen for the 89?
I want to thank Globalcom, iAnalyze, Kamikaze Webworks, and all my teammates at Team Vencer, and I had John Lyday spotting for me tonight, so appreciate everybody's help.
Well, thanks for the time, Jeremy. We'll see you here in just a little bit, and that is your second place finisher tonight in the late model stock portion of tonight's event here, the Pedersen Irrigation 250, Jeremy Adams. Now to third place, the man who started in P1, finished P3, the number 31 of Brad Carpenter. He is with our Chris Murdoch.
Yeah, standing by with Brad Carpenter. Brad, you started first, finished third. You know, what was the race out there like now? The race out there like tonight in the late models.
Well, tonight it was easy starting up front, so that was kind of nice, and watching those guys race behind me, but I just kind of lost my momentum a little bit in one of the times when Matt got by me, and I just hit the brake too much, and this is a momentum track, and it's all she wrote.
And we saw people struggling today all throughout the track in corner entry and getting tight and pushing up. Did you ever feel any sort of tight or getting tight at all? Or how'd the car feel out there?
Yeah, it was tight in the middle. Turn 1, 2 is I could go through it pretty well, but 3 and 4 I was struggling in, and it kind of almost caught me off guard a little bit a couple times when Scott was right behind me. But it was tight in middle in both corners.
And we're moving on from the late models to the super late models, and it's the same distance, 125 laps. Is there anything you're looking forward to out of the super lates more than the lates?
No, I actually like the late models better than the super lates. I still am trying to figure out the super lates a little bit, but we'll see. I don't mind this track. It's just really tough to pass on, and so it just depends upon what other people do.
All right, well, we'll get ready to let you go. Get ready for that. But before we let you go, sponsor shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you, bro?
I got to thank Jeremy Adams, obviously, and Matt. Those guys helped set up wise, and Christian Pedersen and Scott. We're all on the same team, and that helps a ton. So to those guys, I give kudos.
All right, and there you have it, guys. Brad Carpenter started first, finished third. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Good luck in the super lates.
All right, thank you.
And there you have it, guys. Brad Carpenter, Evan. Move on from the late, super late, same distance. I'm going to say even more action.
Yeah, coming up, we're going to speed them up just a little bit and going to send them off once again. And now they've already got 125 laps under their belt, going to be able to get maybe a little bit more creative. And some guys who didn't have very much fun in those late model stocks may be looking for just a tad bit of redemption. So we'll take this opportunity to step aside. When we come back, the super late still on track in tonight's Pedersen Irrigation 250. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour on iRacing Live. We'll be back in a moment.
I actually, really enjoy dirt racing. Feels good to get in the car, and we have, great cars and engines and things at KKR. So it's nice to drive a fast sprint car.
Couple of separate lines developing. Three wide action on a turn two. Craig Kinzer, Casey Kane, and Kieran Pittman going at it.
I think the differences between, NASCAR and the sprint races on dirt is just a much different mindset. The way you drive your cars, the setup, the feel you're looking for. I think one of the hardest things to tell as a fan is when you're watching a race, whether it's a NASCAR race, a dirt race, is just what's really going on in the car. With iRacing, you can get the way that the track's changing, which they've done a great job in how the track changes throughout the night or throughout the race, just to try to capture it and let the fans play it and realize, man, there's actually a lot going on, and you can't always see that when you watch a race. So I think it's pretty neat. It's, enjoyable for me, but at the end of the day, it's actually much of a simulation, and there's a lot of ways that you can learn from that. And, early on, it was neat to look at the Cup tracks that I was going to, places that I had never been. So I think it kind of gives you a head start leading into a weekend. It's pretty real life, and that's pretty neat.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the world of outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
Welcome back live to the Thompson Speedway, where LSRTV's coverage of the Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour continues into the second half of tonight's coverage of round number 3, the Pedersen Irrigation 250. Happy that you're still hanging out on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Myself, Evan Pasoko, James Pike, Chris Murdoch, Cisco Scaramuza, along with you. The late model stocks have come and gone, and championship leader on that side of things, Matt Cocker, took home his first win in those machines. And we head over into the super late models, in which he is also your championship leader. Let's talk about the late model stock, rather the super late model championship points coming into tonight through 2 races. Matt Cocker at the top of the pile in a dead tie with Christian Pedersen. Kyle Young then 12 points back third. Jeremy Adams, John Alette, the top 5 in those. Expecting, based on what we saw earlier tonight, James, more good stuff coming up in the second half of tonight's coverage.
More good stuff, and maybe a little bit of a shakeup there, because you look at third in points after Cocker and Pedersen, and Young, Adams, Lett, Green, Scott Alston, Brad Carpenter, Kyle Leverall. That's 7 points between that handful of drivers there. So going to see a little bit of shakeup there, I think, by default, but they're all really, really tight. So someone can make a big, big jump in the point standings with a good finish here, Thompson.
Something that we didn't note earlier tonight that we should talk about is that the championship payoff in this series, not only are we talking triple figures come the end of the season for both the super lates and late model stocks, but also there are individual race payouts. So that exciting battle for the race lead that we were just talking about in the late model stocks here earlier tonight, $35 divided amongst those two, $20 for the win. And for those that may be interested in getting involved in this Cars eSport Tour, there's now the option yourself to buy yourself into a single race event. Not get a race for championship points, but you would be eligible for those individual race payouts. Again, that's something just now an option. If you want to get yourself on the Cars eSport Tour and you want to get yourself an LSRTV and iRacing Live, make sure to head over to their website. That's www.championshipesports.com for more information. Who knows, maybe we'll see you in 2 weeks' time from the Bristol Motor Speedway. But Chris, first race of the night is coming and gone. We move over to these super late models. Basically, the way it was last week, it is tonight. These guys about a second and a half or so quicker per lap on fresher tires. So race may not last as long, but I think that the super lates might just have that little bit extra dose of excitement.
Definitely, Evan. As we're getting into the super lates, I do want to talk about some problem we had last race was corner entry. Now you up the speeds with these super late models. Corner entry going to be even bigger of a problem now because you're carrying more speed down the straightaway, and it's basically exactly what James said last race, but just more speed. So you're going to have to watch them pushing up in the corner, and I say we see a few of those mistakes here tonight.
Cars on track, final time tonight. Let's go trackside. Take a look at your LSRTV starting grid for tonight's super late model feature from Thompson in the Pedersen Irrigation 250. Scott Austin going to qualify on pole in the PruittTeam.com entry with an 18.447 earlier tonight in the warm-up session, which placed him in P6. Jerry Adams going to sit shotgun on the front row. The 89 will roll from second. John Ouellette, Brad Carpenter back on row 2 will start third and fourth, and the best driver in the warm-up session tied for the championship points lead into tonight. That is Christian Pedersen, who starts fifth.
Mike Iannarelli will roll off from the 6th position this evening, and then it's DJ Beverly in one of those Patriot Fire machines. He'll start 7th tonight. Kyle Lemeralt will look to rebound from a tough late model stock race earlier tonight. He'll start 8th. Then it's Kyle Young who begins from 9th, and Matt Cucker, co-points leader, starts from 10th.
Jody Green 11th, and Robbie Bunden will round out your field in that 87 machine in 12th.
Talk once more about this Thompson Speedway. Don't worry, nothing's changed since the late model stock race. This racetrack coming in 5/8 of a mile in distance, same as it was earlier tonight as well. 125 laps of action due up in the second half of tonight's coverage of the Cars eSport Tour. 26 degrees of banking, very tight corners, long straightaways are the unique characteristics about this Thompson Speedway that make it such a fun place to come and race to. But again, the speeds are up, so we were talking about, and we witnessed, in fact, in that earlier race, a couple of instances where into the corners, some people got a little bit overzealous, and a couple of people got turned around courtesy of some help from the rear end. We will see how much the little bit of extra speed that these super late models possess will play a factor on how these guys navigate the corners. Getting green on that last race, a little bit of a mess on lap number 2. We will see what is due up in our super late model feature. Happy that you are sticking around with us on LSRTV and iRacing Live. The iRacing.com official pace car off and away, the field in the hands of the 05 of Mr. Scott Austin. Green flag in the air, super late's underway.
Didn't really get the greatest of starts, though. Jeremy Adams keeps it all wound up on the high side. He'll stay right there with the 5 car. The 05 slips back to second now. There goes Jeremy Adams to the point. Now they've gone single file for the moment from 3rd back to 5th, but they're double file back for the 7th position as they come off the turn.
A little bit tight in the battle for second and into the fence at jumping forward. John Ouellette in 4th. These guys trying to figure out where they're going to find a spotted line. Single file, though. Top 5. Lap number 2 down the back straightaway. Changes for position outside of the race leader where Jeremy Adams has gone to the point. Brad Carpenter has gotten around John Ouellette. He went from 4th to 3rd, and Ouellette therefore fell back to 4th. Pedersen started 5th, still runs 5th. That's what's going on. Top 5.
Yeah, and Iannarelli up there in that 29 machine was on the back bumper of Christian Pedersen in that 23, but fell off a little bit. Now he's got to worry about the 14 of DJ Beverly going down off of turn number 4, crossing the line. Nothing changed too much. Everybody kind of single file out, keeping it clean really early on. You got to watch those tires, like we mentioned in the last race. Evan, tire wear so important here at Thompson.
And we also, when we talked with our top finishers from the earlier race tonight, they talked about how these cars maybe tighten up a little bit as the run goes on. So trying to get what you can early in this one. Critical. Cocker to win the race earlier tonight started 13th. Well, he started 10th in this one, as he noted. Still runs, though, in the 10th position. Not as smooth sailing for him. Trying to get these things get off and underway early on. And again, big reason he was able to get around so many guys early, not to discredit the big charge he had to the field, was it made a great move around a big accident there on lap 2 to be able to get all that track position. However, with that being said, he's got a lot more work due up tonight. So underway tonight in the super late models. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, right back to Thompson when we return. You're watching the Cars eSport Tour. live from the Thompson Speedway. As we stepped aside for that brief moment, Scott Austin was able to make a move, rather lost the spot as Brad Carpenter made a move on him to take over the number 2 spot. Austin has fallen to 3rd, and we take a look at the 81 of John Ouellette, who has fallen back 1 position, started 3rd, runs at 4th. He's going to be under attack, though, shortly because the 23 of Pedersen all over him. Again, Pedersen comes into tonight's race tied with Cocker for the top spot in the championship. Cocker still back in the pack. He has picked up 2 spots, though, since we last checked in with him at 8th position. So those two, whoever finishes ahead of the other, will take over the championship lead out of tonight. Both of them try to pick up a spot. Pedersen looking on Ouellette. Cocker looking on the 29 of Laurinelli and go to the inside. He'll make the move that time at 1 and 2.
Cocker making his way up through the field, and Pedersen still working on Ouellette. A big race for that 23 car tonight. It's his hood sponsor, Pedersen Irrigation. That's also the race sponsor as well. So trying to get it done not only to become the sole leader of the championship, but also trying to get a win for his sponsors tonight as well. Looks underneath Ouellette this time by. Should have the nose underneath the 81 here in 3 and 4. Side by side they go for the 4th position.
Spot up for grabs. Pedersen, bottom of the racetrack. Really hard to tell which is the lane that you want to take. The single file drivers aren't necessarily sticking it down on the inside of the racetrack. Top very good, and a good run off of the outside. That time, but a 2 for Ouellette to be able to stay in front of Pedersen. Maintain running into number 4 spot. DJ Beverly, not all that far back of these guys. If they continue to do battle, he may want to jump into the picture. He rides in 6th position and is battling amongst 6th and 7th with Matt Cocker just behind them. Again, Cocker able to make the move on Lanarelli a couple of laps ago, who has fallen to the number 8 position. But about a 4 or 5 car length battle here, right in the center of the top 10. That's not all that far behind Scott Austin. The 05 going to be under fire as well.
Yeah, Scott Austin under fire between the 81, and now everybody's going to be looking to go by the 05 this time, as Ouellette's looking to the inside. Then you got Beverly looking to the inside of the 23. Contact between the 23 and the 5, and they're going to turn Ouellette up in there. Cocker's going to skate by on the inside, and that's going to bring out the caution here.
Big junk lap number 20, and it took out a lot of fast drivers. 05 into the outside fence, and the 23 actually helped him into the fence a little bit. He got sideways, and I think he might have been okay, and the 23 just hit him right before he got into the fence, knocked him low, took out Ouellette, and the person who I thought was going to be okay was DJ Beverly, but he got hooked and got the worst of that big hit down in 1.
A lot of cars going everywhere, and contrary to what Mr. Murdoch said just a little bit ago, it looks like Pedersen got more damage on the nose of that number 23 car than we thought. You noted, Evan, that he helped around that one car to get that car spinning up that number 05 of Scott Austin. So gave him a little bit of help, got a little bit of damage there, and then as he was getting through that, made a little bit more contact with Austin and Ouellette. So troubles for the 23. How that affects this car and his charge towards the front compared to Cocker's drive up to the front still remains to be seen.
Yeah, remember we were just talking about how Cocker's a big advantage in how he was able to go from the back to the front in the last race was he avoided a big accident. Well, same song and dance here. It was back at 8th position. He is now going to be 4th. Pedersen stays in front of him. Again, those two are the guys that are tied for the championship, but after that last accident got kicked off by contact amongst 2 teammates, Cocker now once again in a fantastic position, +6, biggest mover, still over 100 laps to go, and he's inside at the top 5.
Yeah, and if you look here at what we mentioned earlier, the points, we got the top, 3 drivers, top 4 drivers in points right here up in the front of things. So the championship battle, even though it's still early on, is about to heat up here, Evan, because you're going to have all these championship contenders, all these top in points, all the way up there battling for the lead now.
And I think that maybe in these super lates, they look a little bit more evenly matched. Again, hard to say based on a 19-20 lap green flag run or so to get this thing kicked off. Plenty of ways to go, but you do have to draw the parallels between this and how that late model stock race got kicked off as far as Cocker, a combination of being good and being lucky tonight. So far, so good for him. He'll be to the outside of row 2 for this restart.
I wonder if those cars from about 2nd to 3rd on to 5th and 6th will get strung out the same way they did and end up nose to tail, right? next to each other, but not really able to pass one another. They have a little bit of trouble doing that. We've heard a lot of drivers say it was a tough track to pass at, so we'll see if that's an issue here on this run.
Pace car off and away. First time we will go re-green tonight from Thompson. Jeremy Adams assumes control of this race. Green flag in the air. We go back at it. 24 laps complete. Next time around, 100 laps to go, and Carpenter blows the corner into the outside fence.
He's going to lose a ton of positions there, Evan, going down. That's going to drop him all the way back to about 8th position now. So definitely a huge mistake on the 31's part. Is you're going to be looking on the inside of Ouellette once again to reclaim one of those positions. Going to be side by side going down. Maybe overdrove the corner a little bit. He's going to power off. They're going to be side by side going down off of turn 2. Cucker on the back bumper of the 23 of Christian Pedersen, not wasting any time. He's going to be looking for more positions here.
Yeah, Carpenter way back into the number 8 spot as the battle just continues right on without him. But again, just like that, another position that Cucker gets and Pedersen gets as well. They go from 3 and 4 to now 2 and 3, but they get that move without much work. And the 31 machine Carpenter saying that he's got to get off of the racetrack and to pull this thing over. So that machine struggling, and I believe his night is done. Hard look on the outside. May have gotten himself a black flag for required repairs, and just like that, running P2 out of this race for the driver who started inside of the top 5. Somebody else who's had a rough go at it that I want to give you an update on, Scott Austin, your pole sitter, who got torn up in that last accident. He's running in 8th position with a heavily damaged machine, but nonetheless on track.
Still managing to roll off, but I think we're going to have a few drivers already looking at this race and preparing themselves for the what might have been. Looks back on it once we get done with it. Austin ended up just in a bad place, I think. A little bit his fault, but a lot of the damage came after he got help from behind. And then Carpenter, you can't really say anything more than he just did it to himself and beat himself up. He overdrove the corner all on his own, ended up in the wall, and what probably could have been a top 5 tonight at least looks like it might not even be a top 10. It'll be close to that 31 car, but certainly not the finish he was hoping for going into this evening.
All he can hope on, I think, is really trying to ride this thing out and hope that a couple more guys fall out of this race. Robbie Bunden has just dropped connection from the server, so he falls to 11th position and now off for the lead lap. The only other driver off the lead lap, DJ Beverly, who came down pit road for repairs after the heavy hit in turn 1. That car, once again, not behind the wall, still on pit road, can get back out on track, but 8 laps down in 12th position, basically locking him up to round out the field here tonight when it's all said and done from Thompson. Just one of those things. Wreck happens in front of you. You can't get around it. Car gets junked. Just how that goes sometimes. A little bit of contact we want to note in the battle for second. Pedersen, Cucker still 2-3. 69 gave him a little bit of a hello tap that time in 2, letting him know that he's there. These top 3 nice and tight.
Yeah, and it kind of helped out the 23 of Christian Pedersen and distanced that 69 away from him a little bit. For a second there, I thought that was going to be just a little bit too much contact for Thompson and going to send that 23 around, but he did a good job of holding it together and getting down in the corner and off it really well. So now the 69's got a hill to climb to get back up to the back bumper of Christian Pedersen. Meanwhile, Jeremy Adams, loving what he's seeing in his mirror, just kind of driving away and easing through this race. Kyle Young, distance back, that's going to allow him to catch up a little bit between the contact of Matt Cucker and Christian Pedersen. So, changes all over the place here, Evan, and it's only going to get more exciting from here.
Yeah, and trying to see where these groups are kind of forming up at the top 3 together. You got 6, 7, and 8 nice and tight. Green, Ouellette, Austin running 6 seconds off of the top spot, but it is a good fight for position. John Ouellette taking a look to the inside of the 13. He'll throw it in there. Jody Green way up the hill inside, wide open, and Ouellette's going to get it.
That just about ended up being a 3-white battle. It was close going into turn 3, but I think Scott Austin might have thought better of it. Also got a little bit of help there from Jody Green, who slipped up the track and made it easy for Ouellette to go clear. But the number 81 machine now running in the 6th position.
Austin still trying to fight with these guys. The concern for me with the 05 is obviously with that much damage, you got to think the handling shot, but there is a lot of front end damage, and that's something that he's going to have to keep a close eye on as far as keeping an eye on those temps as this race goes on. You got front end damage and it starts to heat up the temperature of that engine to the point where it's going to blow up. That's something that is very difficult once it starts to happen to kind of relegate. I guess, though, keeping an eye on it and at least seeing those lights go red before it blows up would at least be nice to give yourself a little bit of a heads up that something like that is coming. The battle for first, second, and third still goes on, and in fact, it is probably the closest fight on the racetrack. Pedersen staggered a couple of car lengths off of Adams, but Cucker gave him that shot, and as you said, Chris, it kind of helped 23 out, hurt the 69 a little bit. It wasn't really didn't send it into the guy, just gave a little bit of a tap, but Cucker's been able to close the gap back. This battle 4/10 off for the race lead, but he hasn't really forced the issue yet. Plenty of racing to go, but it is on for second and what is the championship lead.
Definitely, Evan. And I said that 69 machine of Matt Cucker had a bit of a hill to climb to get back to the 23's bumper. We'll make that an anthill because it took him no time to get to the back bumper of that 23 machine, and he almost made contact going off into 1 and 2 once again. So we'll see how long it takes before that 69 machine of Matt Cucker uses the bumper once again on Christian Pedersen, and it's only going to help Jeremy Adams to drive away. He's already done a little bit, distanced himself a little bit, maybe a 2-car length gap between him back to the 23 of Christian Pedersen. So easy enough for everybody to stay all well and good and where they're at right now. But as the laps wind down, quick laps here at Thompson, so everybody's going to be a little bit impatient. We've already seen it from Matt Cucker here tonight.
And again, this race is the same length, obviously, as the late model stocks. 225 flat features make up our Pedersen Irrigation 250, but these guys are a little bit quicker than the late model stocks. Right now, your race leader's running 19.0s, 19.1s. That's about what the guys in the late model stocks were running, basically on brand new tires. They were down at about the 18.8s and the 18.9s or so. So the pace is going to be just a little bit quicker. It'll add up definitely as the night goes on, but we're almost 50 laps complete. Next thing you know, we'll be at the halfway point. Next thing you know, we'll be counting down. So things are going to start to happen pretty quickly here. But the guys up front, I don't think are really in any pressure to make the move now. They've got quite a comfortable gap over Kyle Young, who's fourth. That's 2.1 seconds. And from there on back, the intervals get even bigger. Fifth place, Michael Narelli, he's 9.5 seconds back, or rather, he's 5.6, and behind him, John Ouellette's 9.5 seconds back. So the top three really starting to pull away with this thing. Young, Narelli, we'll figure it out one of these days. But the guys up front definitely in a class of their own, and they all look fairly even at the moment. It's not like one of them is running the other two over, James. These guys looking pretty good up front.
Yeah, if anything happens here within the next 20 to 30 laps, it's not going to be from your front drivers. It's going to be here back in 7th, 8th, and 9th, because Jody Green and Brad Carpenter have been side by side for about the last 5 laps now. They make contact and get into the wall. That could bring out the yellow flag, and there it is, right on cue. Hard racing. Everybody gets together on the exit of turn 2. Contact between Carpenter and Jody Green, and all of a sudden we've got cars in the wall and another yellow flag here tonight at Thompson.
You might get an EOL for the cause of caution on that one. Right on cue, those guys side by side coming off of the corner. They just kind of blended into each other. 13 came down a little bit. 31 came up a little bit, and they got squeezed into the fence. That really wasn't all that big of a deal. But then the 13 popped up and jumped over the hood of the 31. There was a moment in time where all 4 tires of that machine were up and off of the racetrack for a brief moment as he went up and over the hood and rode that outside fence. Second incident similar to that we have seen tonight, and definitely bringing out a yellow.
Yeah, Evan, like I said, in the late model race, you never want to be literally riding that wall, and that's what Jody Green was doing coming through 3 and 4. Huge damage to the underside of that car, and James was talking about how they'd been side by side for a few laps, and when you're side by side for that long, something's got to give, and you never want it to be the cars give out, and that's what happened there. They kind of just blended in together. They just got too used to driving side by side, got maybe a little bit too relaxed, and that's what happens. You blend those cars together, and they're going to be up in the wall.
I think the yellow was probably caused by, the car that spun around underneath the car that was up on the outside fence, but we're definitely starting to see the rate of attrition pick up as the night goes on, and I said it before we dropped the green in this second race that, 125 laps under their belts, these guys are feeling a little bit confident. They're feeling maybe a little bit more gutsy, try to make up for maybe what they did not enjoy in those first 125 laps, and that's what you get. Even the race leaders, Jerry Adams, damage on the right side. Christian Pedersen, damage on the front and the right side. You've got a relatively clean-looking Matt Cucker, which fits his MO, but I don't think there's many cars that are completely scratch-free at the moment, and I guess I'm not really surprised to say that, despite the fact that we're closing in on the halfway point. We'll cross it, I think, off of this restart here in a bit.
Yeah, it looks to me like Cucker and Kyle Young are the only two really 100% or close to that number clean cars. I see a lot of drivers with a little bit of damage on the right front. Looks like they might have scraped the wall a little bit on corner exit in turns 2 and turn 4 here. But yeah, everybody's starting to pick up a little bit of damage, but doesn't really seem like it's hurting too many people. Christian Pedersen might be the best example of that. He's got a nose that's all scrunched in and pushed in like a bulldog, and that 23 car still seems like it's got some speed.
Yeah, the damage hasn't been affected it. You would think, again, just based on how severe the front end damage, which is primarily what concerns me around the right front tire, is that you would think it would be holding him up. Not that Scott Austin's having a fantastic night, but the 05 is much more torn up than Pedersen's machine, and he gained positions on the last stint. The driver who was at one point leading this race that got caught up in an accident and fallen to, I think, 9th at the lowest he had been, has made his way back up to 6th, and he'll restart this one on the outside of row number 3. So Jeremy Adams, second consecutive restart. The 89 is going to be in control. Pedersen, Cucker, the top 3, they pulled away last time. Let's see if Kyle Young, though, top side of row 2 and 4th, can interject himself into this battle for the race lead. American Ethanol Green flag, the top 3 set sail. It will be a challenge for second. Cocker's going to have a tough time on the inside, but he gets to nose there, at least a challenge at a turn 2. Pedersen steals it.
Yeah, and for a minute there, I thought Adams was going to hold up the 23 of Christian Pedersen on that high side and kind of limit him from coming down the track and getting the run off, but that didn't happen. Christian Pedersen able to power off that corner and get clear of Matt Cucker. Cucker's got to battle back, try to get back on the back bumper of Christian Pedersen, which we know that 69 machine can do. And don't forget about Kyle Young back there in that 4th position. He's also up there in the battle for the points as well.
Seeing if Young and Lateranelli and Austin and company are going to start to fight for 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. We're left with 9 drivers left on the lead lap. You can keep a constant eye on the intervals as far as who runs where at the top of your screen on the ticker. But the drivers off for the lead lap, Green, Bundon, and Beverly, are all out of this race to this point. So just something to note as this thing continues to wear on. But we're back in the same position at 2, 3, trying to catch up to Jeremy Adams. Everybody's still even, and this is the conversation we kind of had within ourselves, James, towards the end of that LMSC race earlier was, at the moment, to that point in the race, running in second, and the guy who was being chased down is Matt Cucker, but Jeremy Adams was the person, in a vice versa position chasing him down, and we were questioning, can he catch up to him? Is he saving? And really what was going on in the head underneath the helmet. But kind of a very similar situation here just now with 3 drivers, because for running this tight, you think we'd see some door banging and some side-by-side action. The 69 gave that one tap to Pedersen, but other than that, they continue to ride single file, making me think that at least those guys want to ride it out for just a little bit, maybe test each other.
Oh, and then I saw Adams clip the wall a little bit on corner exit there, so that could have been a little bit bigger than it was, but as it is, he keeps that car rolling in P1, but again, it goes back to the whole mantra of not beating yourself up and not making mistakes, and I think you were right to a degree there that you would think these guys would want to ride it out, and I think when you look at the way the cars in 3rd, 4th, and 5th ran that first stint there, they were very similar to the way the front 3 are running now, and that they were bunched up together really tight, wasn't a lot of space in between them, but on the other hand, they weren't really making any moves to get around each other either. So I think it's almost a matter of maybe I can intimidate the other person in front of me, but I don't necessarily want to push the issue until we get a little bit later into this race when it really matters.
This time by, though, we're going to cross the halfway point in tonight's super late model feature, part of the Pedersen Irrigation 250. So in green flag conditions, let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of eSports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series from the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and many more. Lap number 65, Jeremy Adams leads the way, trying to make up for the P2 result earlier tonight in the late model stocks. He leads after taking over the top spot, I think at lap number 4, has led since that point. Pedersen started 5th. He has made it up to 2nd. Matt Cocker, who started way back in 10th, is up to 3rd. It is very much a 3-horse race at this moment. Now, 1 second back, Kyle Young all alone in P4, having a good run at a 93. He's +5 from where he started, and also the number 29 machine rounding through our top 5.
You have to go back another second to find the 6th place driver, the 05 of Scott Olsen, who started up front tonight. And then right behind him, you've got John Ouellette in 7th and Brad Carpenter in 8th. Those cars in a little three-way battle right there, trying to figure out who will get the 6th position. Then you've got 9th Kyle Limerl. Jody Green out of this race, scored in 10th at the moment.
11th's going to be Robbie Bunden, and DJ Beverly is going to round out your field in 12th off the track as well.
Look top to bottom at our iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. If you are not already signed up, still for a limited time, if you go to www.iracing.com/World of Outlaws, there's a couple of exclusive promo codes that are going to be available still for a limited time only. There's a 1-year iRacing membership for more than 50% off. You can also get a 3-month iRacing membership for less than $5. So if you've been looking for an excuse to get on the iRacing service, we've got plenty of dirt, asphalt, and road racing. Now's the time to do it. You can get access to those promo codes that are valid on new iRacing memberships only at iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. So midway race break comes and goes. 10 more laps into the books. Nothing changes up front. Adams, Pedersen, and Cocker still 1, 2, 3. However, they might be a little bit tighter together. Those three within 2/10 last time around.
Maybe a little bit tighter together, but not really doing anything of note. What I've noticed, though, is that Kyle Young has started to close the gap on Coker just a little bit, and it looks like the 93 car might be beginning to make a charge. Maybe those front three have laid off just a little bit, not necessarily push the issue, but if they don't push it a little bit more, it might become a 4-car battle and a 4-car train for the race lead.
Well, it would make you think that if Young's going to start to close in from 4th, Chris, then Pedersen and Cocker have to be backing it off, because when Pedersen and Cocker were 2nd and 3rd a couple of runs ago, but they weren't right there on the 89. They were about half a second back. They were pulling away from Kyle Young and catching up to Jeremy Adams. So one would assume you catch up to the 89. You're no longer pulling away from the guys behind you, unless the cars have just lost that much speed that you're not necessarily forcing the issue, which is kind of what we're trying to speculate and talk about with the guys up front. So I'm not convinced that 93 has enough to get up to these guys. I think Young's in a fantastic position. Started 9th, runs in 4th. He's over 4 seconds now in front of the driver who runs in 5th for Ian Norelli, but I don't think that he's going to have enough to get up to the guys up front. We're going to have to wait and see really just how long the 23 and the 69 sit around with their hands underneath them, if that's the case.
Yeah, Evan, we just crossed the line to, lap 76, so it's always going to be interesting to see how long they're going to wait. But it's too early to make that move right now, because if you make the move on the 89, then you give them an opportunity to make the move right back. So it's all about the waiting game, and that's definitely what the 23 of Christian Pedersen and Matt Cocker are doing. Nothing to take away from that 93 of Kyle Young. Like you said, he's doing phenomenal here. He's having a phenomenal run and a phenomenal points day as it stands right now, sitting there in that 4th position all the way up from 9th, but probably not going to be up there for the win unless these three force the issue just a little bit too much, and then that opens the door for Kyle Young to capitalize on it.
Lap traffic hasn't been too much of a concern tonight because, as noted, the only drivers off of the lead lap are behind the pit wall, and their nights are done. The contact that was inflicted to them was pretty severe. We've had quite the amount of big junk here tonight from Thompson. A couple of guys up onto the fence, a couple of guys spinning around, and a lot of sheet metal going to be torn up and headed into the dumpster when the night's all said and done. But you're starting to see Kyle Everalt really start to trail back from these guys. He's the furthest back, 9th and last on the lead lap, 11 seconds off for the race leaders, but that still puts him about half a lap to the good from getting lapped. So even closing into 55 laps to go, he may, or rather 45 laps to go this time by, might not even become a factor in this. But there were certain points in the earlier race tonight when we had the battle between 1 and 2 where lap traffic was a little bit of a factor.
I was about to say, Evan, you say that, and then I think back to the way that late model stock tour race ended, and the way that Jeremy Adams got hung up by lap traffic right at the end of it. It, I think, to a large degree, cost him a chance at running down Matt Cooker. So we'll see if lap traffic plays any more of an issue into the way this race ends compared to the way the late model stock race ended. Overall might be the only one that they'd catch you under green. I don't know if they'd get much further up the field than that, but if they do, you've got Austin and Carpenter and Ouellette all within half of a second. So if they get to that bunch, that could throw a little monkey wrench into things as the laps wind down.
Got a battle going on a little bit further back in the pack for 7th position. John Ouellette, who started 3rd, and think back to the 81. I've seen at least a couple of passes that he's made, but overall down 4 spots on the night. Was just able to hold off a charge from Brad Carpenter. For 7th and 8th position, Carpenter looked to the inside, got there. In fact, got pretty much nose to nose with the 81. Wasn't able to do anything with it. Once the 81 got the run off at the corner, he set sail. So definitely looking like the top side is not the worst of places to be when it comes to trying to make a defensive move on a run. Don't want to distract too much away from the battle for the race lead. Talking about those guys, to be fair, they are 10 seconds off of a 3-way battle for the race lead that is still less than 0.3 of a second apart. You have a feeling that there's going to be a lap here where all of this is going to break out. Somebody's going to make the decision, all right, let's do it, and everybody else is going to be forced into the same position. It's all going to break out.
And I think Cooker's trying to make the decision. Evan, you know, the 69 machine's been all over the back bumper of that 23 of Christian Pedersen, even making some contact, not as significant of contact as we saw earlier where it shot the 23 into the corner, but he's basically letting him know he's there and that he's getting impatient, and that impatience only goes so far before you start to get frustrated, and frustration turns into aggression. So we'll see how long that 69 is. He gets into the back of the 23, almost sends him around. 69 backs off huge, gonna get a massive run off the corner here, going down the back straight over. Kyle Young's gonna be on the inside.
And Young, somebody who we've been noting you gotta keep an eye on to the inside of the racetrack and side by side for 3rd. Almost a car length of an advantage into the little bit of a gap he had, though, eviscerated down the back and nose to nose in the center of 3 and 4. And again, Young can put up a fight with a 69. I'm just not sure he has a car that can beat that 69 of Cooker on a long run. And the Global Com machine outside, just too good, gets the pass done, is able to maintain 3rd, but now they have to start damage control.
Damage control, because that little incident between Pedersen and Cooker cost them about 4, 5, 6 car lengths on the 89 of Jeremy Adams. So now the race will be on just to catch back up to the rear bumper of Adams where they were some 5 laps ago, because you've got to at least be up there in order to even have a chance at making a move on him to go grab the race win.
Well, if they were sitting back, you would think they'd have something left in the tank. And if they weren't pushing it yet, then there'd be a little bit left to put up a challenge for the top spot. So we will see if that is indeed or if it is not going to be the case, because Pedersen now going to have to make up 0.7 of a second. Cooker's going to have to make up 1.1 seconds. And last time by, Christian Pedersen plus 0.2, Cooker plus 1/10. They are definitely closing in. Now I would have to think, though, you don't want to get back to the guy, sit still, and then have the same thing happen to you inside of 25 laps to go. So I would at least imagine that once these guys get to a Murdoch, you got to go for the move right away.
Definitely, Evan, especially with how fast these laps are winding down here. You know, just crossed about 30 coming to 35 coming to 30 to go, so it's going to be interesting to see, because it's going to take about 10 laps for these cars, and maybe even more for Cooker as he's trying to deal with that 93 of Kyle Young going off into the corner here. So it's going to be interesting to see if that 69 can even rebound, because Christian Pedersen's gaining a lot more ground a lot quicker than that 69 of Cooker.
And if he can get around Adams, again, hypothetically speaking, Adams, since he took over the race lead, has had a lot of guys on his bumper, but hasn't gone side by side with somebody, gone toe to toe. So we don't know if that battle does come, how it's going to shape out. But the best case scenario for Pedersen, you talk about how he's catching up quicker than Cucker. That's definitely the case now, because Cucker's still a second off of Adams. Pedersen down within half a second. Not going to matter. Caution. Flag flies. 29 laps to go. We're going to find the culprit in that one. It's somebody off of the guys up front.
We look for that. We'll see if we can figure out what's happened there and get your replay momentarily. But so regardless, though, we're going to have everybody bunched up back here at the front of the field again, and we're going to have all of the mistakes there and all the racing that Pedersen and Cooker did kind of all for naught there, because Adams loses his gap, and now he's going to have to defend again from the 23 and the 69.
Yeah, the caution comes from atop the tower. It was going to be interesting to see what Pedersen would have been able to do. The point that it was going to make was that if he could get around to Adams, even if Cucker was quicker than him, then he would have another driver between he and the would-be challenger, and it would put him in a good spot. But now everybody gets an equal opportunity at this one, because it is going to be a restart with about 25 laps to go in this race, and the intervals no longer matter.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think that's what we were seeing there, Evan, when they were both sitting behind that 89. They were just waiting for that comp yellow because they knew it was going to happen at some point. So they're going to be bunched back up. That contact between 69 and 23 not going to matter, and that's going to get into the head of the 89 of Jeremy Adams, and he's got to be thinking on that because they're going to restart with maybe 25 laps to go. So it's going to be crunch time for these drivers to get up and get past them. So it should be interesting on this restart.
The competition caution coming out for 40 laps of consecutive action without an incident, so that is the reason the yellow flag came down from the tower, and with less than 40 laps to go, can guarantee you that that is not going to happen from this point on. So now you have no reason, if you're Pedersen and Cucker, to kind of hang things back and go at it. I think that you've got to get up on the wheel and go for the win now. Young was a small factor in that last restart, was able to challenge a little bit with the driver in third. It didn't last too very long, but again, the outside oftentimes better than the inside tonight. So he could take Cucker out of this, and if Young's able to make a move on the outside off of the restart, and then the 69 and the 93 would do battle, I think that's almost the best case scenario for Pedersen, to not have to constantly be checking the mirrors, and he could really focus all his attention on the global comm machine of Adams in front of him.
That is the tricky question, though, isn't it, Evan? I think we'll have to watch and see for that. But just a little explainer for those of you watching on iRacing Live. This is a new rule here, this 40 laps of green causing a competition yellow, that the drivers of the Championship Esports Association and the Cars Esports Tour agreed upon after the last race at Las Vegas. Wanted to make a few changes to kind of dice up the action a little bit. So we had 40 laps of green, promptly got the yellow thrown by the tower, and now here we are, the restart coming to lap 101.
24 laps to go. Is this going to be the final restart on the night? Last race along to the run to the green flag off of the final one was much longer than this distance, so these guys can make it to the end as we go back and away. Good jump on the outside for Christian Pedersen. Yes, sir. New race leader, lap 101, and not only that, but Cucker going to get P2.
And I don't think that 89 machine got off to the start he wanted to. He controlled the start, but he seemed to miss a shift there going down into turn one, and it sent the 69 and the 23 around the outside. So now Jeremy Adams going to have to play defense here as Kyle Young looking toward the inside down into turn three.
Now the would-be's and what-ifs don't matter, because Adams just trying to hang on to third position. Young to the inside. That 93's put up a couple of fights for that spot. I just think he's still shy a little bit to be able to get that extra position, but the 89 going to be able to maintain third. Young going to fall back to fourth. They'll go to the inside, think about challenging once again, backs it off to quarter number 3. So Pedersen was quicker than Cucker towards the end of that last green flag stint. He caught up much quicker to Jeremy Adams than the 69 was. Is that going to be a definitive thing? These two have just about walked dead even with each other to this point in this super late model season. Cucker, Pedersen, and Young, 1, 2, 3 in the points. The only only drivers who have not finished outside of the top 5 yet this season. They all run in accordance with that, and that streak would continue if they are to finish where they run right now. But with 20 laps to go this time by, Pedersen looking good.
Small note for you fans at home, Mike Iannarelli went off in turn 4 a few laps ago just off the restart. Now currently runs in the 9th position with some heavy damage on the front end of that car. In the meantime, though, if you're Jeremy Adams, how much do you beat yourself up for missing a shift that just might ruin his chances for victory after he's dominated this race? And funny enough, Christian Pedersen, who threw away the first race of the year at New Smyrna with a mistake on corner exit in turn 4, might be able to ride here and get a victory back if he can just hang on here for this last handful of laps.
You just got to limper home. That's all you need. But in fact, he's running with this thing. Kucker's going to have to deal with Jeremy Adams. Battle due up for second. And unless Kyle Young's been picking this thing up, I think Kucker and Adams have kind of fallen back to him, because the three-way battle now is no longer 1, 2, and 3. It's 2, 3, and 4. All the way to the inside goes Jeremy Adams. He'll get the spot. A beautiful move.
Yeah, and that's going to open up the door for Kyle Young to follow him right through. Now Kyle Young going to be looking down into the corner, trying to get in there, pushes up just quite a bit on Matt Kucker, not going to be quite clear. And anyway, I think Kucker's going to get him going off down into 3. It's going to be interesting to see coming through, not quite clear, and this time off of 4. Christian Pedersen's got to be loving this in his mirror.
He is enjoying it. He has gained a half a second in the last 4 times around the racetrack now. Absolute smooth sailing. Coming to 15 laps to go. He's got a 10th for every lap to go. 1.5 seconds. He is clear over Jeremy Adams, who runs in second. Kucker in third. Kyle Young still trying to get one more spot to the inside again.
John Ouellette got dumped off turn 4 there, though, on that last lap, and that will bring out the caution. Contact with another car. Couldn't quite see who it was immediately. It was the 7 of Kyle Leverant, who got into Ouellette in the middle of turns 3 and 4, spun the 81 around. Everybody checked up, and that brings out a yellow with 15 laps to go.
Yeah, they got into the corner all right. 7 was on the inside of the racetrack. He was there. The 81 kind of cleared him, and I think the 7 trying to get back to the gas to try to stay on the inside, and the car wasn't ready to rotate through the corner. Drove right into that left where he got on the brakes. Didn't mean to get into him, I don't think, but there was really nothing at that point that John Ouellette was going to be able to do, and a tough night continues for the driver who started top 3, was looking pretty sporty earlier on. That should send him all the way to the back of the lead lap.
Yeah, and it's something we talked about in the late model run of this night here, Evan, is that corner entry, you know, pushing it just a little bit hard. The car went up, didn't want to turn, and got right into that 81 machine. So definitely going to be happy to watching the speeds going through these corners, especially now as everything's winding down. Everybody going to be trying to get as much as they can on this next restart.
Yeah, and that 1.5 second gap that Christian Pedersen was looking back on unloving, that is now gone, James. He's going to have Adams right there, Kucker right there, Young right there, and if it was just a little bit of a hiccup of the 89 machine on the restart that gave him, or rather that cost him so much time, and that gave essentially Pedersen the race lead on the silver platter, he's going to have a shot now to get back at him.
How thankful you are if you're Jeremy Adams, because you at least get one shot at redemption, and how much you hate this if you're Pedersen, because you had this race just about won if you kept it clean for the last 15 laps. Now he has to make sure that he hits the restarts and doesn't miss a shift the same way that Adams did on the restart prior, to make sure that he just maintains the lead.
Restart going to come up with 9 drivers scored on the lead lap. Pedersen, Adams, Kucker, Young, Austin, the top 5. I think those are the names that you really have to keep an eye on for this one. Light's still on top of the pace car, so going to have to wait at least one more time around until we go back into green flag racing conditions. It'll probably be a restart with 9 laps to go, which means, as we noted in the earlier race, but what ended up not becoming a factor is the fact that, you know, these guys cannot get a caution inside of 5 laps to go and go back green. So this race has a very, not a likely chance, not maybe a fair word, but there definitely is a probability that this thing finishes under yellow. So you can't sit back and wait to make the perfect move. You just got to make a move, I think.
And it's going to be interesting to see because it's been Cucker can get something on these guys, and then it'll be Adams that gets something on these guys. It's just going to be how you can time this restart, and it's going to be interesting to see who gets the run first, because that outside line's been proven dominant on these restarts, but Cucker can do pretty much anything on that inside.
Here we go for what could be the final time tonight. Pace car down and away. Pedersen going to be in control. He got Adams on the last one. Can the 89 return the favor? This time coming out of turn 4. 116 laps down. Green flag flies at a beautiful start, courtesy of the 23. Clear by 2 car lengths. He will leave a side-by-side fight for second amongst the teammates. Adams does get P2.
Contacted on the back of the field, 2 cars going around, yellow flag out again. I saw Mike Iannarelli, one of them, Scott Austin, the other. We'll see if contact was made between those 2 drivers, see if anybody else got a little bit of help on the replay, and yes, looks like John Ouellette got into Scott Austin, and then as everybody checked up, more trouble behind them to bring out another yellow flag here.
And that will mean that this will bridge us inside of that 5-lap to go window. So that chat about is this race going to end in a yellow or green, I can promise you at least one more restart there, Chris.
Yeah, Evan, and you know, this is where it starts to happen. We saw it happen a little bit on one of these restarts with Jeremy Adams, but I say it all the time, and I'll say it once again. Cautions are never good for the leader. It always gets in your head, and it always leads to maybe a mistake. So I'm definitely going to be watching this Christian Pedersen machine in that 23 to see how he handles this last restart, because with all this stuff going, you get up to speed and then you got to slow it right back down, and you really just want to get away with this race and get away with this win. So the 23's got a lot to think about right now.
Well, it definitely wasn't a good thing for him when he was out to the race lead by 1.5 seconds when the caution flag came out. I think he did everything that he needed to do on that most recent restart to get out of the way, and that did not bring him much benefit by checking things up again. But we're in the same spot we were. Adams is going to be second, Cucker's going to be third, Young will be fourth, and Carpenter now going to be in the number 5 position. I think that Pedersen, not to oversimplify it, but he's just got to do what he's done the last 2 times on a restarts, and that's just get out in front, let them fight behind you. Now, easier said than done in many circumstances. I think more so Adams is going to have to try to guesstimate when that 23 goes, and if he guesses wrong, it could get messy.
I think you simplify here if you're Pedersen. I think you focus on shifting up through the gears and getting into turn 1 without any issues. If you think about the fact that you haven't won a super late model race yet, or that you could screw it up, or you think of any of the other variables that surround restarts, that's when you get into trouble. But if you just kind of let your mind go blank and focus on being a lean, mean racing machine that just goes out and crushes the field, you get it done pretty easily. And if you can get a good restart, it'll be really hard for them to make it up, because they'll only have a few laps left to get back to them.
We will see how this one plays out. Last race earlier on in the evening, it was Cucker who got the win, and he was playing defense towards the end of that one. We will see if he can maybe pull something out of the hat. This time, though, he's going to have to make the offensive move. Christian Pedersen set to have a fantastic night. Came into tonight tied with Cucker in the super late model points without a win. You could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, pull away, get sole position to the championship lead after 3 races, and get his first win on 2017 in these super late models. Pace car to dive down this time by 122 laps going to be complete, and just 3 laps left on the pylon here tonight from Thompson. Pedersen, Adams side by side on the front row as they come to turn number 4 to the restart box. Green flag in the air, good jump once again by Pedersen.
Yeah, and he's got the first part of this run and the second part. He's got into turn 1. Those were James' 2 biggest points. His contact between the 69 and the 89 that's going to send him around and possibly bring out the caution. Everybody's saving it soon, so that's probably going to still green. Probably going to wrap it up for this 23 of Christian Pedersen.
Contact amongst teammates basically decimated anybody that had a shot at getting at Pedersen.
Pedersen looks like he'll make it happen for that Pedersen Irrigation Chevrolet SS. Still in the battle for second between Coker and Young here, but it's all Christian Pedersen as he comes back around to get the white flag.
One more time around, this time at corner 4, brushes the fence, plenty of space though, 1.2 seconds. Back to Cucker, he still fights with Young and Adams inside of the top 5, but the 23 is clear of all the madness. Christian Pedersen gonna get his first super late model win on the season and take the championship lead. Your winner tonight from Thompson.
What an interesting finish that was, Evan. I don't think anybody up here in the booth expected anything to that nature to happen. Contact between teammates basically sealed the deal for Christian Pedersen. He got it done when it mattered, and he picked up his first win.
An interesting way that tonight played out, because Cucker came into tonight in the late model stocks as a winner in super lates, but had yet to get a late model stock points win, and got his first late model stock win and added himself to the list, including Jeremy Adams as drivers who have won in both cars. Very same scenario for Pedersen. Came into tonight, super late models, top of the championship with a win in the late model stocks. He now gets his first win in the super late models. And guys, in only 6 races, we've got 3 drivers who have won everything. All 3 of them have won one of each.
Makes it pretty even after 3 races in a lot of ways, and we'll just have to wait and see how that shakes up points and everything, and how everything kind of fans out. But strong runs again for Pedersen and Coker and Young. Not the first time we've seen them up here, and not the first time we've had the chance to talk to all of them in interviews, and I know we're going to get to do that here in just a little bit.
Quite the dynamic. We've had 6 different checkered flags fly. 3 different drivers have won them. Each of those 3 have won both a late model and a super late model win on the season. You can't get much more even than that, and if that tells you that the competition in both of these cars are going to go all the way down to the end of the season, I'm not sure what else would be a convincing factor. We'll chat with your top finishers in just a moment. First, let's take this look at our LSRTV full race results for tonight's late model feature from Thompson in our Pedersen Irrigation 250. Christian Pedersen is our super late model winner. We'll talk with him next. But Matt Cucker and Kyle Young come home inside of the top 3. They will be trackside with us as well. Great results tonight for the likes of Jeremy Adams. He's able to recover, steal a P4 from this one when it's all said and done. And Mikey Inarelli comes home inside of the top 5.
6th place ended up going to the 7 car of Kyle Leverall. Scott Austin had trouble early on, got caught up in a lot of wrecks over the course of the race, but still managed to finish 7th. John Ouellette had a busy night, finished 8th. Brad Carpenter, last car running at the end of this race when it was all done, got 9th. And then Jody Green, first car out of the race, 76 laps down, finishes 10th this evening.
Robbie Bunden and that 87 machine will round out 11th and 12th. DJ Beverly.
That is your look top to bottom at our LSRTV full race results. Let's go trackside and talk with your super late model winner tonight. But at Thompson Speedway, Christian Pedersen gets the job done as we come down and chat with the driver of the number 23 machine. Christian, congratulations. You had a late model stock win already this season. Now you've got a super late model win and should be able to break the tiebreaker that you had into tonight with Cucker at the top of the championship standing. So all around, not a bad night for you guys in the 23. Talk us through it.
Yeah, for sure. Debuted a new paint scheme this week, so it's awesome to put it in victory lane. And first time we put it in victory lane in the supers, and it's in my home state, so it feels really good. But I definitely feel like I got handed that win. I think they're on like the 3rd last restart or something. Jeremy missed a shift, and the top's so good here that I was, next to him so I could get the run off, and it was basically my race to lose there. If I didn't mess up the restarts, I had it. And yeah, I mean, I gotta thank Jeremy. He did the work on the setup. Like I said, his race to lose, but doesn't always go that way.
Talk us through maybe a little bit earlier on before all of it kind of busted wide open at the end, because you were up there, Cocker was out there and Adams at a point where everybody looked almost dead even. You guys, before the competition, caution, run 1, 2, 3, all kind of squished in within 0.2 of a second of each other. At that moment, not knowing that, you guys would end up in a perfect position to take advantage of a mistake and get out and get to the clean air, what kind of were you thinking sizing up against those other guys as far as maybe who was a little bit better where?
I think, most of us, we were on the same baseline setup. I think we had a few adjustments here or there, varying each car, but for the most part, it seemed like all of us were pretty tight off 4, and that's where I was able to, I could seem to keep it down more than they could and keep the same speed. So I was looking to make a move there, but I really wasn't going to make a move. We knew we were going to have a yellow at 95 if there wasn't a yellow. So I wasn't going to make a move then, unless Cooker fell way back, because the Highline's so dominant here that it's just, you can't make a move because that guy, the guy right behind you will just go right by you on the outside if you don't get that move completed. So I was basically just kind of riding in line, hoping, you know, to stay close enough to Jeremy to make for him to make a mistake, but he didn't until that restart. So yeah, just restarts can bite you in the butt sometimes.
An interesting fact that we kind of stumbled across based on how these races has gone is now there's only been 3 winners so far in the 6 races that we've had this year. Yourself, Adams, and Matt, and you guys have now all won one of each. You've all won a late model stock race, and you have all won a super late model race. So I guess the competition amongst both cars, amongst you 3, is going to be incredibly tight as the season goes on. Is there, you know, either or of them that you feel like you have a better shot at? I know that obviously running a lot better into tonight, obviously in the super lates because you missed a start in late model stocks earlier on, but you guys look pretty even across all spectrums.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to vary from track to track on who likes it better, who likes that track better. I mean, we're all really good fast drivers, so I think we'll all be right there at the front, unless something happens early. But I don't know. I personally, I like the super better. I think it just more power. Like, I don't know. You can get, for me, I can get that car to handle the way I want it to more with the setups, and the stock is not. It just kind of seems like a big street stock to me. So I like this more, my driving style, but I think I'll still be able to be competitive in stock for sure. So we're going to try to get it done in the supers, but we're going to try to put on a show in stock.
You definitely you got the speed in either or, which means that plenty of opportunities to put on a show for the guys here tonight. And it was a great race for you guys. You get the win at a super late, so congratulations on that. The sponsors and shout outs who makes it happen. I know that you guys obviously really wanted to get the win tonight representing for the Pedersen Irrigation 250.
Yeah, that's awesome to get it done here in the big show for this event. We got the new paint scheme done by Kamikaze Webworks. It's features a nice new logo we got for Pedersen Irrigation. But other than that, just everybody at Six Man, Jeremy and Matt for you know, the work that we do on the setups. We work on the setups together, and Kyle and you guys for putting on the show.
That is your winner tonight from Thompson into Super Late Models. Christian Pedersen now one apiece. He will take the Super Late Model points lead after round number 3. Christian, thanks as always for sticking around and chatting with us. Congratulations. You guys are now going to have to race to see who's the first to get 2 of something. So we wish you the best of luck. Hopefully we'll chat in 2 weeks.
All right, thanks, Evan.
Pedersen gets the job done tonight. Cocker, a winner tonight, has to deal with 2nd place in the super late model. Still a great result for the driver who came into tonight at the top of the points, keeping Christian Pedersen honest through 3 weeks of contests. He's track side with Chris.
Yeah, I got Cocker here. Evan and Matt, you were pretty consistent today. Started from the back once again, and you basically got it done second. So how is the car out there tonight?
First off, I gotta say sorry to Jeremy. That last restart there, I got into him. It was a little bit of netcode from my screen, and he said on his it wasn't netcode, but I sent him the video. I mean, it sucks when you take out a teammate, but I mean, coming from the back in the super late model, I had to use more of my right front than anything, and I mean, towards the end there, I was just getting so tight center off, and there was nothing I could do. And on that last restart, I was just trying to move up a little bit so that way Kyle Young couldn't get a run, and if Jeremy would have cleared me, I could have hopped back up. But it didn't work out like that, and I mean, I'm sorry to him. He's a phenomenal teammate. Couldn't ask for anyone better to have his teammate. But there was nothing I could do after it just shot him sideways. So, I mean, it was a great night. Finished second. It is what it is. I mean, hopefully next week I can qualify a little bit better, and so I don't start back there, and maybe we'll be able to run up front the whole time next week.
Definitely. And, coming from that, you come from the league, you finish second, that's going to bump you back to second in points, where consistency is always key. It's early on. Do you even pay attention to the points this early on, or do you just go out there and just try to get your race done and do the best you can?
It's early in the season yet, so I'm really not looking towards points. I'm just going out and try to win races, and that's the best way to get points. When you just go out there and just race for fun and try to win. That's all I'm trying to do. I think about the points, but I'm gonna think about it more when it gets closer to the end to see where I have to finish. Who do I have to beat? Right now, it's just all about trying to win races, and not take out my teammates like I did tonight.
So we move on from Thompson to 2 weeks' time. We're going to be at Bristol Motor Speedway. What are you looking forward to at Bristol?
Just finishing. Honestly, I hate Bristol with a passion on the sim, and it's a great track, but I just cannot get around it. I never could in anything street stock, anything I get in when I go there. I just cannot get around that track great. So just hoping I'm gonna be there at the end to finish up front. I mean, probably not gonna win it, but we'll see what happens. And just gonna try and finish the race, and we'll go from there.
Well, you had another great run here tonight, Matt. Before we let you go, sponsors, shout-outs, anything you want to say before we let you go?
Yeah, I got to thank Jeremy again. I mean, he sent me the setup right before. I thought I saved it earlier on, but I didn't save it, and sorry to him again. I got to thank Team Vincere, iAnalyze, Globalcom, Kamikaze Webworks, and Rowdy's Graphics and Wraps. I also got to thank Pedersen Irrigation for sponsoring the race. Thank you. And then you guys for broadcasting.
And there you have it. That's your second place finisher, the 69 of Matt Cucker. Matt, thanks for taking the time to talk to us here.
Thank you.
All right, and that's the 69 Matt Cucker. Started 10th, finished second, but I'm going to toss it over to James Pike, who's standing with your third place driver, Kyle Young.
So the last man on the podium tonight, the 93 of Kyle Young, who managed to bring it home third this evening. Got a really good run there in those last few laps to get the job done and get his second third place finish in as many races. And Kyle, we talk a lot during the broadcast about drivers who have a tendency to beat themselves up and make mistakes and end up throwing away good finishes and race victories. And you, on the other hand, for the second week in a row, have been the guy on the flip side of that, taking advantage of opportunities that come your way to improve your finishing position. Talk about how you got it done here on the final few restarts tonight.
Yeah, tonight we actually went way, way better than I was expecting it to. I had absolutely no opportunity to try anything out and warm up. My computer froze up and crashed on me, so I was barely able to get back in time to not miss the start and miss any laps or opportunities. And we were actually, the gear was a little bit too short for us towards the beginning of the race. Once the tires kind of warmed up a little bit and started to get some wear, and we were running a little bit slower down the straight, so it wasn't too bad. But towards the beginning of the race, it was a little bit too much. I was hitting the ship a little bit too much than what I'd normally like. But surprisingly, I think what really kind of helped us out was that big crash towards the first part of the race there. We went from like ninth to fifth. And then during those green flag runs, I was just kind of chilling out. I think the gear probably cost me a little bit of opportunity to get closer to the top three, but I was just riding and kept looking up in my mirror and there was nobody behind me. So I was totally content with just kind of riding it out and seeing what we could do to get the top three spot. And off that last restart, I was just my intentions were to try to make the top side work to see if I could get around Matt. And then I have his teammate sliding in front of me and was barely able to avoid him there. So, and then once we got around him, I was just trying to make sure that, we didn't give up the spot and didn't run into Matt and ruin his night as well. So, but I'll take it. I'm super excited. To have 3 top 5 finishes to start off this season with the Supers is extremely amazing. We finally got a top 5 in the late model stock. So overall, a great night. I'm really happy. And it's awesome to continue to see the success.
You're quickly establishing yourself in this field as one of the most consistent drivers, especially just outside of that Pedersen, Coker, Adams quintet. So do you feel like you have a game plan formulating in your head as to how you find that extra bit of speed so you can go out and compete with them and start leading laps and chasing victories on a regular basis?
Well, I think I need to start spending a little bit more time on practicing and some setup work. I really haven't put in a bunch so far this season, and really to see the success, see how much success that we've had already without putting in a ton of work is really making me wonder what we could do if we were able to kind of focus a little bit more. Our next event, I should definitely make sure to do that. Bristol is not one of my more favorite tracks. I tend to struggle there a lot in some of the higher up NASCAR stuff. The short track things aren't too bad. I did get to win a race at Bristol in the official super late models last year. So, but I think if we can kind of start to do that, maybe focus a little bit more on things on the Mondays and Tuesdays, and especially now with a redraw, if we can qualify for the redraw and get a good lucky draw, that can really change things around for us. But if overall, if we put in a little bit more work, I think maybe we can start to race with those guys a little bit more. It was definitely it definitely felt good to be, just off of those guys. Christian, Matt, and Jeremy are three of the best guys in this series. So to just be a tiny bit skosh off of them is really, really cool, and definitely keeps me confident in myself.
You got a lot of people you need to thank for making it happen tonight, Kyle, but go ahead, take your time to give your shout-outs and let the people know who makes it happen for the number 93 car.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I want to thank Kyle and all the admins and officials here at the Cars eSport Tour. This has been an absolute blast over the first few weeks. It's been awesome to show the success. The races have been great. The drivers have been very competitive. It's been very clean racing. So props off to them. Their hard work is definitely paying off, and it's been an absolute honor to be a part of this league. Shout out to everybody that's watching on all the streams here on LSR, iRacing Live, Cars TV. Want to give a big thank you to my spotter, Brandon Smizer. Him and I both stream these races on Twitch. He's over at Sage Pancakes. I'm Sprint Cup Fan 24. So gives us an opportunity to kind of share our side of things. And of course, allow to bring in some other people with us as well. Big thank you to all of our viewers for checking out our streams. Everybody at Revcom Racing and Revcom Gaming for all of their love and support. Really, really happy with how things have been going throughout this first few weeks. And if we can do this and keep up the confidence, hopefully we can get out of Bristol with a strong run and stay healthy.
Well, thanks for the time, Kyle. Congrats on another third place finish, and hopefully we'll see you 2 weeks from now in Bristol.
Oh, you definitely will. Thank you very much, James.
That's Kyle Young, finishes third tonight. And so, Evan, that just about wraps up coverage. And the next event, I think, is a special one because not only do we go to Bristol Motor Speedway, but it's the first event on the calendar that directly ties into an event on the Real Life Cars Tour schedule. They'll be at the U.S. Short Track Nationals, the inaugural version of that, in just a few days before we get there for the eSport Tour race. So kind of fun to finally hit a track here where real life and the sim start to cross over a little bit.
Yeah, which is the whole purpose of this schedule is to more or less coincide with what the guys at the Cars Tour are doing, and it's Bristol. Bristol is an absolute blast on the real world side of things. It is an absolute blast on the sim side of things. Maybe more so for us top side than the guys that'll be track side in 2 weeks' time because it can get rough. But these next couple of weeks, I'm really looking forward to, Chris. Bristol, we've got a Legends Oval coming up in Martinsville. The next 3 dates on the calendar, definitely going to be a blast.
It really will be, Evan, and I might not be up in the booth for these races, but I definitely will be watching Bristol and Martinsville, two of my favorite tracks on the sim, and always produce great racing, so wouldn't expect any less from this Cars Tour.
We hope that you join us for that one for the Bristol Motor Speedway in 2 weeks' time. We hope that you join us every night here on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Make sure to catch us. There's a couple of broadcasts still to go this week's. We got Friday night action, Saturday night action, and many more. You can take a look at our full broadcast schedule on our website at www.livesimracing.com. And you can also stay up to date with us by subscribing to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/C/LSRTV to make sure you get a notification every time we go on the air. You can also follow us on social media by following us on Twitter. That's at LSRTV. And you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/ LSRTV official. Until next time, on behalf of the entire team at LSRTV LLC, for the folks behind the scenes, the people who make it work topside week in and week out, and of course for the broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for of course Chris Murdoch, James Pike, Cisco Scarboza, and everybody else, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate not only Christian Pedersen but Matt Cocker on their wins tonight here in the Cars eSport Tour. We will see you in 2 weeks' time from Thunder Valley, Bristol, coming up next. You do not want to miss it, and we'll catch you there. Good night.